Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
What's up, peeps?
Fred, Scott, Ryan, James. We got a special guest in the studio today.
What's up, y'all?
Guy you might be familiar with from the chat rooms, Mr. Joe Carlozo himself.
Hey, you got it right.
Hey, Carlozo.
About time.
It's only 2 years in the make. Oh, Scott.
All I did was hit the button.
Yeah.
Or Ryan. I don't know who to blame at that point.
That was me.
Hey, we turned it off, though. That's pretty cool. We can turn it off.
2 years in the making, man. We've been talking about this for a while. You joining the
Definitely.
show, man. So appreciate you coming in here. And
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on opening day.
Opening day was awesome.
It was, which we will get more into that
It
later.
really was a mandate.
It was a
Throw that out
mandate.
right now.
Stick around for the stories, guys. Stick around for the stories. That's
It
all I'm
was.
gonna say.
Note to fans: if you give Fred something great, you can come on the show.
That's exactly right. All about me. All about, it was a crazy week, man. We had opening day. I got my second round of my vaccine, which, by the way, knocked me on my ass for 2 days. Like, literally out of 48 hours, I'm pretty sure I slept like 38 of those 48 hours.
But did you die?
I didn't die.
Good.
I didn't have anything crazy happen. I was just really, really exhausted. And then, I mean, in a sad news, man, throw up the X. DMX passed the other day. That's somebody that was the soundtrack to my childhood growing up, my teenage years, my early 20s. You know, that was a great lyricist. Still the Red album. One of my favorite albums of all time.
Such an overall influence on the genre,
Yeah.
you know, and where it went. You know, just the overall that gangster rap style, right? He was one of the additional pioneers that took it to the next level,
Right.
There were other guys that pioneered it. He just helped take it to the next level.
Yeah, man,
So,
but he was rap when rap was rap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Where my dogs at?
His lyrics, I mean, they were true, spoken from the heart, shit that he lived through.
and you'll never forget the voice.
Nah, you never will, right?
People are hurting with him, man. I've heard more DMX this week than I've ever heard. Just walking to him from work in Baltimore City and stuff. It's everywhere.
It's dark and hell is
Everywhere.
hot, and Flesh of My Flesh. Both of those albums, I listened to them from cover to cover the other day when I was driving around. Actually, when I was going up to get the shot from Kaylee, I went up there listening to the first album and on the way back. So rest in peace to the X-Man.
There you go.
Miss him. But we got a lot to talk about on the show. The Ravens bring back a special kind of guy on a one-year deal.
Yeah.
Catch my drift with that. And then we got special guest Cole Jackson
He's sitting backstage right now.
joining the show to talk all things Ravens offensive line and the pending NFL draft. So excited to have Cole. If you haven't followed him on Twitter yet, be sure you do. What's his Twitter handle? I think it's at Cole Jackson FB.
At Cole Jackson
I believe.
FB. Yep.
So make sure you follow him on Twitter. With the Orioles, as I mentioned, we're talking opening day and the whole new experience at the Yard. Everything from the outside perspective to the lack of amenities inside.
Yeah, there's some changes that were surprising and some changes that were also last minute and unexpected. I'm interested to get your guys' thoughts on all these.
And then, obviously, they've had some highs and lows over the first 2 weeks of baseball, which we kind of expected with this team.
Some oh yeahs and some oh no's.
Yeah, so we'll talk some about that. The Terps Hoop Squad reload with some big-name transfers that we talked about last week. But the national pundits have some pretty lofty expectations already for this team next season. So we'll talk about that and see.
Temper yourself, Ryan.
Yeah, temper some expectations. And in this week's rundown, we're talking Julian Edelman, a Hall of Famer? Question mark. History at the Masters.
You better put a question mark after that statement.
History at the Masters! Exclamation point.
Yeah.
and Kids Helping Kids in Atlanta. So,
Exclamation point, exclamation point.
for sure. Before we do too much, though, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH, the Maryland Personal Injury Attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation just like I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. It can all add up quickly and potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, well, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including tickets, which I did get confirmation on, to potential some Oriole games in the future.
So before we get started, I do want to, we said that Joe is here today.
Yeah.
Before I apparently jumped the gun with switching the camera, so I'll switch it back over now that we know it should be good.
Right.
So Joe and I have known each other for years, since like late middle school or early high school, with a very close friend of mine, very close friend of his, Mr. Joe Pa, who is now, shout out to Joe Pa. Joe Pa is now.
I still got to meet this guy.
He's
heard
in the
all
twin
about
club
him for the
with
last
me.
3 years, and I've never met him.
Joe Pa has twins, but Joe Pa is now the sports producer for WBAL.
Nice.
Yeah.
So big news for him. He actually, I think last week was his first week.
That's awesome.
So great shout out to him. But Joe and I have known each other for years through Joe Pa. Many of times we've been drunk together at Joe Pa's house, Matt Chef's house.
Quarters.
Yeah, exactly. Quarters gets dangerous. But no, we've known each other for years, and then we continue the friendship. Hanging out, and winds up. He winds up getting season tickets, and where does he sit? His season tickets are right at the end of the row that we sit in.
That's awesome.
Hey, if you guys want to sit on the couch next to each other, we can move James up front.
That's fine.
We can spoon.
The
It's
bromance.
couch and couch. We can make it work. But no, I've known him for years. Guy knows his stuff, except for maybe Maryland, because he is a Penn State fan.
But he's this weird
State
hybrid
counts.
of a Terp
I'm a
and
hybrid.
Penn State fan,
hybrid.
just as much as I'm an Ohio State and Maryland fan. So
Which is only slightly less weird.
exactly. But appreciate you joining us on the
thank you.
show, man, and feel free to chime in anytime. All right.
So I think we got somebody else waiting backstage.
We do. Speaking of guests, man, we're going to bring in one of our special guests, guy that I've known for the past 2-3 years, I guess, via the social media, via Twitter. Guy that has kind of built his name on Twitter through his offensive line evaluations, his film breakdown. Cole Jackson. Cole, welcome to the show, man. Appreciate you joining us.
What's going on, boys? Yeah, now I'm gonna have to bust over the border to get down there and meet you guys in person.
For sure. For sure. For those that can't tell by the accent, Cole is from Canada. Whereabouts in Canada are you from, Cole?
I'm actually in the nation's capital, Ottawa, Ontario.
Oh, okay. Nice. And I know now, I guess you're kind of doing your own thing, freelance, right? Not writing for anybody currently, just doing your own thing, right?
That's right. I'm just kind of doing my own thing on Twitter. I'm looking into doing a little bit of a YouTube series, doing some film breakdowns this year. I might start after the draft and do some start pasting some clips together and do some video breakdowns of the players that the Ravens do draft. So that's kind of where I'm thinking of going. I was just looking to kind of do my own thing from now on, but formerly a Russell Street Report, very amicable split there. Love those guys over at RSR, and
Yeah,
nothing but great
guys.
relationships and great things to say. But yeah, just kind of doing my own thing now and having some fun with it.
Well, let the fans know that we mentioned you're from Canada. How in the hell did you become a Ravens fan living up in Canada?
Well,
How
it's
did that
funny.
happen?
It's funny because my dad was a Steelers fan, and so
Interesting.
and like my dad's like my dad was like a big junior hockey player growing up, so he was like in that breed of junior hockey players that were like rough and tumble guys. Like he was an enforcer for the teams he played for, and like he got into Steelers football because they played that style, and so I just watch football with him every Sunday, and I fell in love with Ray Lewis and those late '90s teams, and then they won the Super Bowl, and I just kind of took off, and he let me do my own thing, and I just kind of followed them ever since. So it was kind of weird how it all worked out. It doesn't really make all that much sense, but I gotta say it was falling in love with Ray Lewis like in those early days of like when he was 5-6 years into his career, and then obviously watching that go through the 2000s and those 2000 defenses. And, I was just kind of raised with that blue collar mentality, and that's what Play Like a Raven meant, right? So it was always something
Right.
I could resonate with.
Right. Well, another thing that I thought was kind of interesting with you is I guess you got your true Baltimore baptism via Twitter, right? So there was some rumors going around that you had never had Old Bay before.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an interesting journey how you got the Old Bay. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
So it's funny. Adam Bonacorsi tweeted out something about Old Bay wings, and I was like, I'm gonna regret saying this, but what's Old Bay? And so he DMs me right away, and he's like, you don't know what you just did. And so I like go on, because everything I do online, I have to go like Walmart.ca, independent.ca, and everything's just .ca because that's what I deal with up here. Couldn't find it anywhere in Ottawa, and it was at the point during the pandemic where daycares in Ontario were still closed. So I had my daughter home with me. I threw her in the car. I drove into Ottawa to check out some of the more specialty stores. Turns out I find some, threw it on some shrimp. It was delicious, and I haven't looked back. I throw it on everything now.
That's going to be my follow-up question. Are you using it the way you're supposed to, which is you're using it on everything?
Popcorn, eggs, shrimp,
There it
chicken.
is.
Yeah.
So
No, it's
I think
legit.
we need to immerse him even more. We need to send him some J.O. Spice. Because J.O. Spice is, I know Old Bay is Maryland, but J.O. Spice, the flavor of J.O. Spice is elevated to
Scott,
me.
I lost a little respect for you on that one.
I'm
a
telling
little
you.
respect for you.
I'm telling you.
J.O. Spice is like a good secondary option if you have no other choice, in my opinion.
Well, I've heard there's Old Bay hot sauce. Is that true?
That's a new thing.
So
The guys
that's
over
the
there,
next
Jimmy's, man, they've got a ton of it there. I had it for the first time a couple weeks ago. That is good stuff. If you're a hot wing fan and you like Old Bay, it's a match made in heaven, man. It's good stuff. So did this whole thing with you and offensive line and your film breakdown specific to that group, did you play football growing up? Were you an offensive lineman growing up? Like, how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so I grew up playing. I was always a left guard. I played some fullback. I played some defensive tackle and some middle linebacker. But my roots were always left guard. That was the position I played like almost my entire career. So I played high school up through. We had a really solid program at the high school I went to here in Ontario. We were a really small school, AA program, only like 400 kids in the high school, and so. We won a couple Eastern Ontario championships, went on to provincial championships in my senior year, and then just getting into the Ravens, and I just missed the game when I got done playing. So I picked up coaching. I coached a high school up in Ottawa, and then I coached in the Cumberland Panthers organization. And Cumberland Panthers organization is actually where Neville Gallimore played his youth ball before he went. He ended up going to he went to a prep school in Canada before going down to Oklahoma, but he's from Ottawa. He was like kind of the first big. There's another guy, Eli Anku, who's playing for the Cowboys right now. He's a defensive tackle. He played at UCLA. He was another Ottawa-born kid. So like, there's plenty of kids from our program that's gone on to the CFL, but not too many NFL players. So it was kind of cool to see him go on and do that. And we're starting to send. There's a school in Delaware and a school in Maryland where we're kind of have a pipeline through our youth program. St. James School, I think is what it's called in Maryland. It's in like Hyattsville, if I'm saying that right.
Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah. So some people out there that are from that area might know it. So I just sent my left tackle down there a year ago. So he's playing there in grade 9. I coach 13 and 14-year-olds, and then it was just kind of like getting more into the game and picking up on a lot of clinic work and trying to better myself as a coach and as a player evaluator. And it's just gotten me more into the nuts and bolts. It's funny, I say all the time, I wish I had this knowledge when I actually played the game. I would have been such a better player. Like it's funny to look back on, but I was playing, coaching, that sort of thing.
That's awesome, man.
So being that obviously you love the offensive line, you love to target. Let's kind of take a minute and break down the offensive line situation.
Yeah, that's
for
been
the Ravens right now.
That's been something Scott and I have been talking about for a while now.
Ad nauseum.
I mean, it's for me, it was the single biggest difference in the lack of success, I guess if you could say that, between the 19 season and the 20 season. The biggest difference for me was the offensive line. So We'll start it off with obviously the biggest hole that was left last year, replacing Marshall Yanda. I know it's no easy task. You could tell just by the struggles from last year and everything. What's your take, obviously, on the addition of Kevin Zeitler? He seems to be the right fit to slide in there at right guard. What's your take on him? What can he bring to this offensive line?
It's a good question. Me and one of the guys that I do a lot of film watching, film discussions with, Michael Crawford at A Bukhari on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's like, I've learned so much from that guy. It's hard to even wrap my head around how much I've learned from him. But we watched him as soon as the signing was announced, and I think the biggest thing you're going to get with him that no one's going to replace Marshall Yanda. I mean, he should be a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer in my opinion, just because I don't think people truly realize how dominant he was for so long, even up until his last year. Like he just the kind of guy when you're watching film and you're watching every game, you really start to notice that it's almost like I stopped watching right guard because everything was just, I knew was going to be handled there. So that type of consistency is impossible to replace. But here's something I did notice in his film with the New York Giants that I think he's going to bring that Yanda brought. It's really that communication pre-snap. You see it if you watch, even you can see it on the broadcast, but if you watch in the all 22 from the end zone angle, he's pointing out coverage calls nonstop. He's pointing out blitzes. He's communicating with his other offensive linemen. And I think that's one of the biggest things the 2020 line was missing. And I think also, like, Bozeman was in his second year starting. Skura was technically in his third year starting. But, Skura went through so much that I think he was just trying to focus on, being healthy enough to play. And, I really think if he doesn't get hurt in 2019, not only do I think that playoff game is different in 2019 because there's been so much talk about our pass protection, but it was really our run blocking that was terrible in that Titans game in 2019. And it was just that kind of A-gap left side that really struggled in that. Like, we were just getting owned by Jarrell Casey and Jeffrey Simmons and even Daquan Jones had a hell of a game. So, but it was that, and then not having Skura again the next year's, it's so tough for him to return from that injury and expect him to return to form. So, it's losing Yanda, it's having an unhealthy Skura, it's Bozeman, who in my opinion is playing out of position. Like, it's just so much. And then all the injuries and the line combinations. And, we were at the point where we were like shuffling our right tackle mid-game. It was absolute insanity. So I think what Zeitler is going to bring you is he's going to bring you more consistency. He's going to bring you better pass protection, that's for sure. He's going to bring you a bit better run blocking. I wasn't overly thrilled with his run blocking. He's a good run blocker, but I think he's a better pass protector in my opinion. But that intangible of bringing the leadership and bringing that kind of IQ pre-snap, it's going to make a huge difference with these young players.
So you brought up communication, and I think that's a key point because this is something I talked about probably about a month ago now. With the question marks that we have at center, obviously Matt Skura has now moved on, right? So we haven't signed anybody as a free agent, a veteran to bring in at center. It's going to be somebody that doesn't have a ton of experience. You got Pat McCarry, which he hasn't looked good at center. You got Cologne Castillo, which he looked good in the two sample sizes that we had. Granted, it was a very small sample size. But I think communication is going to be key, especially from that right guard to center. If you're going to have a young guy in there, there's a lot of different things that can happen. Obviously, the Ravens could go draft for center because there are some good centers, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Do you think the Ravens, though, are comfortable right now with the Pat McCarry and Cologne Castillo combination? Do you think that they're comfortable in that?
I think they like Bradley Bozeman sliding over to center. I don't know how widely reported it was, but the week before, so it would have been the last week of preseason, but not during prep week for week one. They rolled out a line combination of McCarry at left guard, Bozeman at center, and Tyree Phillips at right guard. And I think they just wanted to give it a look. And I don't think it got widely reported. I know it happened. But I know that they were at least thinking about it, and I think they decided to go with some continuity. They thought Skura could hold up with his knee, and they would leave Bozeman where he was because at least that was some form of continuity. So when you look from 2019 to 2020, the only thing changing was going from Yanda to Phillips. That's in their head, but that's not factoring in Skura playing on a bum knee.
Right.
So I think that they're going to entertain that, but I also would not write off a drafted guy. I think Makari has shown us that if he's your sixth guy, your sixth offensive lineman, he can literally come in and spot play at all five
Agreed.
positions.
Yeah,
that is valuable. They loved that about James Hurst. I know fans hate James Hurst. I personally liked him. Like, he was one of my guys, but he was the same kind of thing. You have to know what you have in him. Having that type of ability to come in and play multiple positions, first man off the bench, is so valuable. So if that's kind of Makari's role, I think we're in a good spot. And Colin Castillo is a tough one for me, because if I'm evaluating just his performance, I really don't have much negative to say. But Are we really going to go with another undrafted free agent at center? Like, do we feel good about that as a fan base? I know I don't. So I guess I wouldn't say that that's a bad idea, but it's a risky idea.
100% agree.
Follow up with that before we kind of move to the elephant in the room that wants to be traded. But when it comes to that center, is there any guys out there that you can think of in free agency that, I mean, we've talked about it. There's nobody that stands out to us, but is there anybody that you know of or you can think of that could possibly come in and be a fit?
I think the only guy that's left that could be a good fit is Austin Reeder from the Chiefs line. I don't know if he's signed. I might be wrong. Someone in chat might say, no, he already signed, but I think he's still an unrestricted free agent. He's the only guy I could think of that would be kind of that top guy that kind of steps in and he's your starter. The Chiefs do a lot of similar things to the Ravens. I know people don't really want to agree with that, but they do. They run a blended gap zone scheme. The passing offense has similar concepts in the sense that it's a West Coast offense. So I think Mahomes plays out of shotgun pistol a lot, so he'd be used to those snapping patterns,
right.
which brings PTSD to all of our lives.
Right.
So I think that is a possible fit. Is he going to be that much of an upgrade? Do we want to pay that type of money for a slight upgrade? That's where it gets a little interesting, but that's kind of the last remaining guy that's out there, in my opinion, that would kind of be a plug and play starter at center.
All right.
Okay.
So from talking about upgrades to talking about, my opinion, there's not a doubt about it. It's no matter which way you go, we could be looking at a downgrade very easily at right guard, obviously, or right tackle with OBJ. So OBJ, he's seems to be done for whatever reason. He thinks he's the left tackle and wants to stay that way. What do you see them doing with him? Do you see them trading him? Do you see them keeping him? Like, what do you see happening here? At
this point, I think they're not getting the trade interest that they want to get the return that they expect.
So that's the question. Then, what do you think actual real compensation is for him? For me, it's a low first at minimum. In my opinion,
I think he's worth a mid first. I think teams are going to be they're going to be willing to try if I'm an opposing team, I'd be trying to leverage his inexperience at left tackle and the fact that you only have 10 games in 2020 at left tackle to say, it's a bit of a risk. He hasn't done it, and try and downgrade his value that way. But a lot of his traits project just fine to left tackle. Like he uses his length so well that it masks his foot speed. It's one of the things that he was on Brandon Thorne's podcast before the season started. It's called Trench Warfare. And it was like hearing him talk about how he prepares for rushers, how he knows he's slow. Like he knows he's slow footed. He knows damn well. And he talks about using his length, using his knowledge of the rushers he's playing against. And you see it in his play. Like he knows he's slow, but he knows how to cover it.
He makes up for it in smarts.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where his ability to do that at right tackle, it's hard to kind of say, well, you can't do it on the left side. Really there's been this big conversation about, right tackle with the evolution of shotgun offense, and there's so much throwing at a shotgun, it's kind of limited the blind side for the quarterback because, they're not taking those 5-7 drop steps where their back is literally turned to the left side, their blind side. Right. I think, and there's been a lot of debate about this. I remember David Bakhtiari was weighing in on it last summer with John Ledyard. And, what people don't realize is when the quarterback can see you, he can work off of what he's seeing from your block. So if a guy's trying to bend you and you're pushing him out of the pocket, he can literally see you and step up in the pocket. But if it's on your blind side and you can't see that, even if you started in shotgun, he has to basically feel you. And so you kind of have that chemistry built where he knows the way you're playing and you have to play to that standard for the quarterback to work off of you, because he literally can't see it while he's going through his progressions. So that is always going to disadvantage a tackle, because there's a higher expectation that he's going to be more consistent in his reps and how he plays a guy. So I do think that is relevant and it makes left tackle harder, but in the way Orlando Brown Jr. plays, I don't think it's going to impact him making a transition to the left side. So all of that said, that was a very long rant. All that to say,
no, you're good.
He is worth a mid first round pick. Like, he's in that like I would accept if Indy wanted to, go get him to be their left tackle. Number 21 would be cool with me. I'd live with that. I don't like. I saw someone in the chat. If Chargers offer number 13, completely agree. Don't see it happening. I don't think they'll do that. But it's kind of that, 13 to 21 range is where I see it. But I'm at the point where we just went through a full year of offensive line, musical chairs. I just want to leave it as it is, because
I know
the value of his play in 2021, where I know I'm getting top 5 right tackle play, top 3 right tackle play, and I know that I have a very good left tackle if Ronnie Stanley gets hurt again, if Ronnie Stanley can't get up to speed for week 1, because, who knows, right? Like, it's not a guarantee he's back 100% week 1.
Right.
So I'm in the boat where I want to keep him, but there's a price to pay. Like, there's a price at which I would trade him, and it's that mid first round. But I'm just not going to go down to, that pick number 33 from Jacksonville. I'm not going that low. So I have my price. I'll trade him, but I'd prefer to keep him.
So let me ask you this then. Let's say that he does get traded. And before we get into the draft side of things and who his replacement would be through the draft, current roster situation, I mean, really the only guy, in my opinion, that has the ability to play right tackle would be Phillips, but I don't like that option. It makes me want to vomit thinking about the option. I like Phillips as like a swing tackle, and I think that there's a lot of growth with him, but he's super raw. And you saw that in his play last year. What's your take on Phillips? I mean, do you think he's ready to step up into that role if, God forbid, we do trade Brown?
I think so. After we drafted him, I hadn't watched a ton of him before the draft. He was it was a shock to me on draft night. He was like, the last pick? I was up till 2 a.m. that night on the Friday watching his tape. Like, who the hell is this guy? And he did some good things in that LSU game where he was blocking Clavon Chason basically the whole game. He had a nice ability to set vertically. I think where I saw the specific issue, if you were like, what was his specific issue when he moved back to offensive tackle? When he slid inside to right guard, you could see it in weeks 1, 2, and 3. He was basically taking his pass protection steps as if he was an offensive tackle. And what I mean by that is, if he's setting on a 3 tech that's making an outside step, or a 4 tech that is his man because there's a 6 or 7 tech outside of the tackle, he's taking those kick steps. But offensive tackles and offensive guards take different types of steps. It's still a kick step to move back and a post step to move up, but they're quicker, choppier. Things are quicker on the inside. That's kind of a lost understanding in terms of offensive line play. So you would see him take those longer strides. And what happens when he takes those longer strides on the inside against these guys that are moving quicker in less space is he's oversetting on them. And so that really adjusted. I think the way his pass protection got better each game as an offensive guard was truly impressive. And then, he got hurt. And then when he came back, Stanley had been hurt, so he played right tackle. So that was a bit of a gong show, because now he has to go back and change his footwork again. And so I think that mental development was tough on him. I don't know if anyone saw the video that he just put up where he was doing some drills.
Yep, I did. Saw it yesterday.
That's a lot of inside work that I'm seeing. A lot of those quick, short steps that I'm talking about is what he's doing. So I think he's a guard. I think he can play tackle. I said this after I did my film watch last summer. I think he could develop as a tackle because I saw a really strong ability to set vertically, and I think that could really help him build the type of skill set that I just talked about with Orlando Brown Jr. But I see him as a very high ceiling guard, but he's just not there yet. Like he needs time. His run blocking was terrible. He was out hands over his feet the entire year. And when you kind of start your rep that bad, it's really hard to get into the second level. And that's really what Ben Powers brought, was combo blocks into the second level. And he was springing some of those runs just because he had more experience at guard. He was ready for the run blocking that was required.
Yeah, so you bring up Ben Powers. That was going to be the next guy I bring up because I don't understand why we haven't seen more of him on the field. I don't know if there's maybe something that we're missing, but the little bit of work that I've seen him play, he's looked good to me inside. And maybe that is part of the plan, like you mentioned, if they're potentially moving Bozeman into center, that Powers would then slide into left guard. What's your take on Ben Powers and what you've seen with him so far?
I was really impressed. It was one of those things where if you go back to his first preseason, which was 2019, 18, 29, whatever. Right. His first preseason, he played those reps at left guard, which is where he played in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma guards do a lot of the same things the Ravens do. They're trapping, they're pulling, they're doing a lot of that type of movement thing. They had this play where their left tackle would pull on a trap, but it was a run fake. It was a play action play. And Ben Powers would have to kick step all the way to the left tackle's man. That's an athletic block, no matter how you slice it, whether it's college football or not. That is not an easy block. So that was his big thing coming out, was he wasn't athletic enough. That's what everybody said. That's what they say about everybody now, and it's becoming a cliche. It drives me nuts. I think where I saw his biggest issue, and it came up last year, was he does struggle with flexibility. He really doesn't have that lower body flex that you'd like to see from inside guys. I made a joke on the Film Study podcast that he needed to hook up with a soccer mom and start going to Saturday morning yoga, get the hips loosened up. So that's something that I think he can improve, but he definitely played well. I think he fits left guard. I think you can see it in his pulls. He does struggle with some of the hip mobility to make that drop step and accelerate. So there are some technical things he can work on, but I really see if they decide Bradley Bozeman is a possibility at center, that Phillips versus Powers competition at left guard, I think both fit well at left guard. Tyree Phillips pulled really well this year when he was at right guard. He pulled a ton at left tackle at Mississippi State, and he pulled well. So I think he has that type of ability. I think both can become, very solid pass protectors, which is always good on the left side beside your left tackle. So theoretically, say they made no changes to their starters and they went with, okay, Bozeman, you're a center. Phillips, you're going to compete with Powers at left guard. It's risky. It's risky in the sense that, you're moving a guy and then having a competition between two guys that I think showed promise, but didn't necessarily grab the bull by the horns when they played right guard last year. But I wouldn't be necessarily terrified as I would if Phillips was, say, playing right tackle in place of Orlando Brown. So, but it's one of those things where what's the spot to make that upgrade? And that's where I see, a lot of draft prospects where you could just plug and play at center and, just run with it.
Well, you brought up the draft, right? We've been talking a lot about internals, and the Ravens they've got some serious decisions to make, right? Because if you're going to go in this draft, there's less than a handful of guys that you're going after that are plug and play at right tackle. There's less than a handful of guys at center that are really going to be plug and play that don't need a whole lot of development time. So kind of wanted to talk about that, right? So what are some guys that you think of when you look at this draft that you think wind up being a good fit for this system and being a plug and play type situation? Because we need a center. If you can get a center and if you're not going to do Bozeman over there, you need that. Ultimately you're going to need a replacement at some point for OBJ, whether that's this year or next year. Maybe this is the year you get that guy and then you let him develop behind him for a year while he finishes out. Or maybe you wind up saying, okay, now we got this guy. Let's go ahead and trade him now, and maybe you can get something for next year. But what's your take? What are some guys that you think fit well here?
So if we're looking at the center prospects, there's really three guys that I kind of see as plug and play centers. Day one starters where I'm going to feel pretty comfortable. One of which isn't the most comforting because he's coming from a small school, but Landon Dickerson and Creed Humphrey are two guys that I think if they're drafted, they're day one starters at center. You just kind of plug them in and let them play. I think both fit the scheme well. Like I said, Oklahoma does a lot of things that the Ravens do. I don't think it'd be a big shock for Creed Humphrey. We were talking about communication. Creed Humphrey beside Kevin Zietler would be really, really good for that kind of pre-snap getting guys set up. So I think that's one thing that would make a ton of sense. When you look at Landon Dickerson, he plays like a Raven. He has that skill set from Bama where they run that kind of mixture of gap and zone. So he's used to making the kind of blocks he'll be asked to make. He's a dog. He can get down in the trenches and he'll just work guys. So he's got that kind of that fit to me. I think you have to be obviously a little concerned about his knee. I wouldn't take him off my board, but it's one of those things where we can talk about medicals till the cows come home, but we're not the ones exposed to that information. So it's hard to really kind of scratch him off the list. And then the third guy for me is Quinn from Wisconsin Whitewater. Kind of came out of nowhere. His Senior Bowl was nuts. Like, he was absolutely incredible to watch. I was able to find 2 games of all 22 on him. They were hard to find. It's always tough to compare. I remember watching Matt Judon when he was at Grand Valley State, and even John Daka, who was with us from JMU, and you watch their film and they're just dominating guys because they're so much more athletic. And it was kind of that with Quinn on the inside. So it was tough for that to kind of do that projection, but you did get the Senior Bowl to kind of see him against peers. And, if he had struggled even a little bit, I think that would have made me kind of pause, but he just was dominant at the Senior Bowl.
So do you see him as like a legit plug and play kind of guy day one, or do you see him as more of a developmental guy?
I think it's riskier because, like I said, that competition, it's hard to have that kind of evidence base to make a strong case that he's plug and play. He would be kind of, I guess you could put Dickerson and Creed in kind of tier 1, and then he's leading that tier 2 guys, that fringe tier 1, tier 2 guys. I see him as that good. Like, I said, if he didn't have such a good Senior Bowl, I would have felt a lot different, but he was so dominant and he just didn't. I expected him to kind of come in and struggle a little bit, and he didn't. He just kind of took off. So, and then we're looking at kind of lower tier 2 guys. There's Josh Myers out of Ohio State. Yep, I'm not a huge fan of. I've watched him quite a bit. I do think Ohio State has some good transferable scheme notes that work well for the Ravens. I mean, that's one of the benefits of the Ravens running such a diverse scheme where they mix zone and gap concepts and even a little bit of traps. So that is helpful. But I'm just not big on him. I didn't find he had a lot of lower body power. He kind of struggled with that. And his pass blocking was pretty good. I don't think he'd come in and have a huge struggle, but I don't know if he's like a day one kind of run with it and never look back type of starter. So I wasn't too thrilled with his film. And then you get down a little bit. There are guys that people are saying could slide over. There's been talk about Dylan Radons and Brady Christensen or tackles that could come play center. Those are always tough to project. I just had a tweet yesterday actually about it's a good kind of thought exercise. What are the transferable skills that a center needs that you can look at in an offensive tackle and see that progress on the inside? It's something that I need to do a little bit more thinking about to kind of speak to. I will say Dylan Radons I think he's 6'6", 301, but he's got a really slight build to him. So I'd be a little worried about plugging him in center day one without his body doing a little bit of transforming, especially his lower body. And then you're kind of getting into that lower tier of, you got Kendrick Green out of Illinois who would be switching to center. You have Trey Hill out of Georgia.
So that's a name. Trey Hill is a name that I've heard all over the place. I've had people say that he's a high day 2 pick, and I've heard some people say that he's a day 3 pick. So he's been the guy that I've been most intrigued to hear other people's opinions on, because if you don't land, for me, if you don't land one of those top 2 tier 1 guys, the Creed Humphrey of the world and the Landon Dickersons of the world in round 2, if you don't get one of those guys, then you got to, if you want a plug and play guy, you got to be smart about who you're getting. And this guy seems to be the most polarizing. What's your take on him?
So one thing that is working for Trey Hill is he's absolutely a scheme fit. And to compare to other guys that are kind of in that tier, like Jimmy Morrissey and Drake Jackson are light 300 and under guys that are going to fit in a zone scheme. They're going to fit with the Steelers. They're going to fit with the Vikings. They're going to kind of fit in those roles where they're not going to be asked to down block and blow guys off the line as much as the Ravens are going to ask them. So I will give Trey Hill that credit because he is a scheme fit. So say something nice about Trey Hill. He's a scheme fit. That said, I didn't like his tape. I didn't like it a lot. He plays out of control with his upper body. He is powerful, but I mean, you can just see he doesn't have a lot of flex in his lower body. And a lot of the times he's winning with upper body strength. And to be fair, the man is a dog. I'll give him that. He finishes like an absolute animal. Like he wants to put you into the ground. And that's like, I mean, he's like 6'3", 330. Like he's just a big dude. And once he gets moving, like he's gonna body guys. But I see a lot of similar issues that I saw this year with Tyree Phillips, where he's kind of playing out over his feet. He's overextending. He's not able to kind of get low on guys when he's directly putting his hands on like a 0-1 tech. And then there were also some issues I found where if he was doing because Georgia runs a lot of zone, if he was combo blocking and he had a couple of steps to get into a linebacker, he was kind of able to use his length and get low. I think he's a really intelligent player. He makes me, the way I look at him is he looks like he does his prep work. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to manipulate guys with angles to make seal blocks. So that's really important. But when he was getting, one step in a combo block into the second level where a linebacker's right up on him, he isn't able to coil his hips and get low again and then start drive blocking. And that's where he ends up high. And that might work in the college football level where he's just bigger than a lot of dudes. But when he's trying to body up on these NFL linebackers, it's just not going to be as successful. So if we're talking about like a day, if go back to our hypothetical, if they're going to roll with Bozeman at center and they want a guy that's going to kind of develop under him with, say, a Colin Castillo, I'd be okay with Trey Hill because I do think he's a scheme fit. I think he's got some things that can develop, but he needs a ton of work on his technique. Like, I don't see that as a day one starter. So naturally, he'll probably come in and be completely fine and be a day one starter.
All right. Well, then let's go with the other hypothetical, the other situation we talked about, the Orlando Brown trade. Let's say that trade does happen, and now we're in the game of replacing Orlando Brown, right? Let's say we get that mid-round, first-round pick that you had mentioned. Who are some guys that might be available in the middle of that first round? I mean, some guys that I've kept an eye on, and Scott and I have been talking about for the past couple of weeks. You got Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern, who's a very versatile guy. He plays a little bit all over the offensive line, which I like that. You got Tevin Jenkins, who we both like. Dude's a mauler, but some question his effort at times. I don't know if these are two guys that are on your radar in the middle of the first round. Who are some guys you're looking at?
I think Sewell, Slater, and Darrisaw are all going to be out of reach of even if we get that pick. I think they're going to go higher than people expect. Wow. I could even see Slater going to someone like the Cowboys, and it's kind of a shocker that they didn't take a cornerback again. But yeah. But Tevin Jenkins is an absolute dog. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. If he was somehow there at 27, I would absolutely take him, throw him at left guard for a year, and then move him over to right tackle next year when Brown Jr. walks. He's a dog. Like he's perfect scheme fit. I guess I watched about 5 games on Jenkins, and I didn't really see the effort thing.
I didn't either. I don't watch a ton of film like you do, but the little bit that I watch, I never saw an issue with effort. But that's the thing that I've heard most.
Yeah, I think it came out of some reports from coaches. So I don't know if maybe in practice
somebody trying to lower his stock value.
Yeah, maybe it's EDC after he broke someone's fax machine. Got in there and, So Jenkins is a perfect fit. I think he's got that skill set that I think projects well as because this is the thing when we hear guys talk about taking offensive tackle and moving them inside, I don't think people will realize that there's an entire skill set that needs to be evaluated to fit on the inside. You can't just take a slow offensive tackle and assume he'll be a good guard. Just look at DJ Fluker. He wasn't good at anything, even though he fit that mold. So I think Jenkins has those prerequisites that I like to see in a player to move inside. And to be fair, I thought Tyree Phillips had them too. You know, the ability to have quick feet, quick hands, that sort of thing. So he's a guy, if we're getting, kind of into where I think guys could be there at 27, a guy that gets talked about a lot is Jalen Mayfield. I think he's really going to struggle at offensive tackle in the NFL. He really struggles with foot speed, and he doesn't show an advanced understanding of using his length. So that gives me a concern. Jackson Carman is one of those guys where I think he's again pegged as a guy that's, bigger, slower, so he should move inside. I think he does a really good job with his length. I think Alex Leatherwood does a really good job with his length. So those are two guys that I think you could get away with at right tackle. And then a guy like Liam Eichenberg is extremely intriguing. He's a Notre Dame left tackle. I think he can play left tackle in the NFL, but it's the same thing as Orlando Brown. If I get him as my right tackle, I'm just as happy. He kind of fits that power scheme mold where I think he can down block and really push guys off the line the way Brown does. So he's a guy that really intrigues me. Sam Cosmi he's a really solid player. He's a little bit lighter, and I think he does it really well in space, but I wonder if he's a better fit for his own scheme. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. And then if we get a little bit lower, one guy that I think is severely underrated is Stone Forsythe out of Florida. I haven't seen him talked about a ton, but he is a guy that I have my eye on. Same with Brady Christensen. I think he's really solid. And so where I'm going with this and why I'm listing so many names is the reason Orlando Brown Jr. is probably not going to realize his draft value is because it is insane. Like you can look at like a guy like Brandon James from Nebraska, and he's probably going to be there in like the 4th round. In any other year, we might be talking about end of round 2 with him. Like he's that solid. So, and even a guy like Josh Ball out of Marshall, he's like 6'8", 350. He is your ideal right tackle in a power scheme. He's got quicker feet than you'd expect from a guy his size. Like there are a lot of fits in this class. So I think that's what's really going to hurt them in terms of trying to get his trade value.
It'll be interesting to see what the Ravens do, because even if they don't trade Orlando and they keep Orlando, because this is such a tackle-rich draft, and because they know the end game is that Orlando's going somewhere else, it's just whether it's now or whether it's at the end of his contract, do the Ravens spend a draft pick, even if they don't get him, don't trade him this year, to put a guy behind him and develop him and have him learn behind Orlando for a year?
I think it's a perfect situation, and that's why a guy like Stone Forsythe, who ironically Forsythe needs to really work on his run blocking, which I think people could look at and be like, well, how's he a fit for the Ravens? But it's because I think he has the transferable skills to be able to develop that skill set, and he's such a good pass protector that I feel pretty good about him in offensive tackle. But like if you could get Forsythe in like even the 3rd round, it might seem like a bit of a reach because you're maybe sitting him on the bench for a year, but I mean, you're going into 2022 and you're like, all right, bye Orlando Brown. Thanks for the 3rd round comp pick. We got Storm Forsythe now. I really like that idea. And I think this is such a solid class that there are a number of guys that could really fit that, kind of develop for a year and then step into the starter spot.
Interestingly enough, in last week's mock draft, we picked up Stone Forsythe in the 4th round. So it was a great pickup in that situation. So if you've got some time, Cole, we'd love to run through a mock draft with you.
Let's do it.
And
Let's do it.
What we're going to say, we're going to preface this. So we're doing it on Draft Network. We do have it set up for trades, so we might get some trade offers. Unfortunately, fans won't be able to hear the ring this week with the phones ringing. But what we're going to have you do is you're EDC, man. You're making the call. You can, go to your scouts. So we're gonna all act like we're your scouts and tell you what we see. But you're the one making the final decision on us here. So we're gonna get this set up. I'm gonna hand this over to Fred. I'm gonna switch us over to the draft look here.
Love it.
Can you see the board?
Yeah.
All right. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go.
Get Trevor Lawrence picked.
I'm gonna ask you first before we start this draft. Is there anybody in your mind worth trading up in the top 10 to go after, knowing the compensation that you're going to have to give up to go into the top 10? Is there anybody in that top 10 that would entice you?
Do you guys know how bad I would like to get Rashawn Slater on this team? Like, do you guys know how bad? No. I mean, as a guy that watches as much as I do, like that, it doesn't make sense, and I wouldn't do it. But if it happened, I'd be like secretly smiling behind it.
So then what we're going to do then is we're going to go ahead and start the draft and see where we are after 10 picks. Take a look at the board and evaluate 10 through 15. If we get any calls, who might be on your radar and if it's worth trading up from there. So let's see how this thing goes. So obviously it's going to be a run on quarterbacks these first couple picks more than likely, and there they go. 4 picks in, 4 quarterbacks gone. No calls yet, so we're going to keep on going. There goes Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Waddle.
Can't wait to sack Burrows this year.
Yeah, Fields.
Oh, wow. It was a big run.
A cornerback for the Cowboys. He called it. A cornerback again.
So
Draft Network must be tapped into our show at this point.
Right. So here we are. We're 10 picks in. And the guy that you said, oh, man, how much do I really like him? Rashawn Slater, still sitting there. Still sitting there after 10 picks. Are you making a call to try to go up to get this guy at like 11 or 12? Or do you think it's going to cost too much?
New York needs a lot of players.
Yeah. I've done this damn simulator so many times that I know what you have to give to get to 11.
Right.
They sometimes offer it. And as badly as I want them, I can't pull the trigger on the compensation it would cost to go get them.
Okay. So let's say 11 through 15. Obviously, Slater's probably going to go in those 5 picks. Is there anybody else looking at this board right now that you might be enticed to say go up to 15 after? You got Slater, Devontae Smith, obviously the Heisman Trophy winner, J.C. Horn. Let's see. You got both. All the edge rushers are there. Jenkins is there. Is he worth a top 15 pick to you?
I don't think he's worth a top 15, but if he was there between as we get close to 20, I would entertain it. But
Okay.
Devontae Smith is so intriguing.
Smith.
It just
It shows over there, Smith.
he's so good, but
Yeah.
again, it's just like I remember I had this conversation with a couple other guys. It's like we've added Sammy, Marquise Brown's in kind of year 3, where I think he's got a lot of promise. I think I view him higher than a lot of people do. Are there going to be enough targets to give to a guy that you just traded all that draft capital for? As
Right.
good as he is, and he is good. So I'm not trading up here.
Okay. So that's going to be my other question to you about Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith's a great talent. Don't get me wrong, right? But a lot of people, including us, have been talking about the right player and the right fit at that wide receiver position for us. So guys like Rashad Bateman, guys like Terrace Marshall Jr., maybe not as high on other teams' board, but might, in my opinion, might be a little higher on our board because of the right fit. Are those 2 guys maybe somebody you're looking at in trading up in the top 24, or are you standing pat and at 27 and not considering either one of those?
And that's it's just I had that hard time envisioning, like, not only did we take a wide receiver in the first round, but we gave up other draft assets to move up for him.
Right.
Where are we getting those targets from when we're not going to throw the ball enough to kind of feed that type of draft investment, right? And I think a lot of that comes from, it's not so much that I want to see them go out and throw the ball 40 times a game. I really think that we have something in Marquise Brown. I think we need to unlock what we have in him before we kind of close the book and move on. I think Mark Andrews is very good. So, those are kind of your top 2 targets. I think we need to complement around them. And I think Sammy Watkins did a very good job if he can stay healthy. Obviously, that's not something you can bank on. But if you go and you added Sammy Watkins, you got Brown, you got Andrews, you're going to run the ball a hell of a lot this year. Do we have the targets to give to a first-round wide receiver that we not only drafted in the first round, but we gave up draft compensation to go get? That's the kind of philosophical question that we need to consider. I personally think the answer is no.
Okay, fair enough. And then the other hole, I got to ask you this too. The other hole, obviously, that everybody talks about, edge rusher. We haven't added a veteran yet. I know there's a lot of talks about that. Might happen after May 3rd. But if we are going to draft an edge rusher in the first round, is there anybody, because you got the pick of the litter, not a single edge rusher has been taken yet.
Yeah.
Is there anybody worth going up anywhere, or again, are you staying pat at 27 and kind of just seeing where the chips may fall?
I think I like a lot of the value that's going to be there at 27. There's a couple guys I'm pretty out on, like such as Jason Oweh. I don't see it technique wise. That said, a guy like Kwity Paye is very good. I think he's a really good fit. I think Aziz Ojulari, I always say his name wrong. I think he's a damn good scheme fit too. Again, one of those guys where I saw people saying he doesn't play tough or he can't play against the run. It's one of those things where I watch, I'm like, what the hell are you guys watching? I mean, the guy's sticking his head in trap blocks nonstop. And then, those are kind of the 2 guys that I would consider, but I think with the value of some guys that are going to kind of drop down a little bit, such as, possibly a Jalen Phillips because of the concussion concerns. I really like Joe Tyrone. I really like Osei. I like Basham Jr. I like Quincy Roach. Like Peyton Turner out of Houston kind of caught my eye a little bit. So there's enough guys where I'm probably not going to move up for an edge rusher. But I would definitely be sitting back and being like, okay, what's available at 27 before we make a call?
All right, well, let's start it up, see where we go.
Flip that back to everybody so we can see the entire board here. You got to scroll down first. It's a pain in the butt. There you go.
All right, so let's go ahead and start. Well, there goes Devontae Smith. So if we're going to make a move, and
Rashad Bateman.
Wow.
That's the earliest I've seen Rashad Bateman in any
Wow,
draft I've done.
to the Eagles.
Yeah, so literally the only wide receiver on the board that anybody's talking about the Ravens potentially taking in the first round would be Terrace Marshall Jr., and even some people say that that's a stretch taking him in the first round. So it doesn't look like the chips are falling where they in our favor if we're looking to be taking a wide receiver here. But to your point, I don't know if taking a first-round wide receiver is worth it based on the lack of targets.
And then Slater goes right behind him at 13 there. But does that move where Rashad Bateman was maybe expected to be a little further back there, does that allow for a guy, like Tevin Jenkins to maybe fall a little bit further? A lot of people have been projecting him top 20. Does he now fall into that 20 to 25 range that maybe you might be willing?
Yeah, you'd entertain that. If it's me, I'm entertaining that possibility because I think you can get away with a little bit less draft compensation to make that jump and make it justified. Because like I said, I think he's the kind of guy that you could plug in left guard day one, left guard's taken care of, and then you have your right tackle in 2022, and you also have that 5th-year option on your right tackle while you're paying Stanley. So you kind of got that ideal O-tackle combination for the next 4 years, I guess, after this year.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go down to 20 and see where we're at. All right, so we're sitting at 20 and 2 tackles. You got Darisaw and Jenkins both sitting there at 20. You got to be like having that crackhead itch at this point. Just smacking your arm like, I need it in my life. I need to make the trade.
I think one of them's going to the Bears here.
There's no way if the Bears don't take Darisaw here, they're just a broken organization more so than they already are.
I was say, how's that differ any other year for them?
Yeah,
them and the Eagles, pick one.
This is a situation where it's like if we wanted to make that trade, we would have had to call Washington to get up over top of 2 teams that are back to back here that are going to be looking at offensive. It could very well go Darisaw, Jenkins to Chicago,
and Indianapolis.
Sorry. Just blanket on the names.
All right,
So-
let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's.
Boom,
There
there's
goes
Darisaw. Let's go to the next.
And this is going to be.
And there it is.
Jenkins.
Jenkins, you called it. So both tackles that you might have made the call on go back to back there.
EDC, are you unhappy you didn't pull the trigger on a trade?
Should have traded with Washington.
Should have hit that
Look at
pause button a
Washington.
little sooner.
Yeah, but Washington's not going to answer our calls.
That is true. All right, so at this point, then we're what 4 pick? What are we at? 22, 5 picks away. All the offensive tackles that were worth trading up for, all the wide receivers that were worth trading up for, are gone. So at this point, are you staying put at 27, or are you even thinking about maybe trading back and
I'll be
gaining
looking
more?
at trading back depending on who's there and who goes in these next 5.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's see what happens.
You have to get a call, which is interesting.
There goes the first edge rusher.
Oh, there's a call
Here comes a call. All right.
from the
so-
Chargers. So the Chargers are willing to give us. They're offering their second round pick, so we'd be moving
So
back.
we're moving back to 47. So we're dropping 20 picks to pick up a third, 77 overall, and a sixth
sixth.
round next year.
I like
and there's
getting
another
that.
offer on the.
I like getting that extra 100, but I'm seeing my scouts are saying no. So I got to trust my scouts.
There is another offer on the table.
There is another offer, so
do we
let's
got
go to
here?
here. This is from the Panthers. You're dropping back to 39, so you're dropping back 12 picks, but then you're picking up a fourth rounder, 113th overall, just outside of top 100.
Yeah,
That's a leave it up to you decision, is what that was.
that's
EDC,
where-
this is what you're paid for, or not paid
Yeah,
for by
yeah.
us.
So here's the thing that you got to think, right? Is yes, you're dropping back 12 spots, but you're dropping back from the first round to the second round, and you're losing that extra year,
That's it.
right? So that's something that you have to consider in this too. It's not just a matter of picking up draft picks. The contract goes from a 5-year to a 4-year.
So why don't we look at the counteroffer situation so he can see who's on the board and see if there's value to him actually doing this at this point.
Let's see. So who is on the board? I think we're going to have the pick of the litter pretty much at edge rusher. Quiddy Pay and, well, Jason O, I know you weren't high on him, but Quiddy Pay is there. Let's see. A couple corners.
Wait, what are my scouts saying? Who do you guys want? Who
Ryan,
you guys
Ryan, you need to do your work. Remember that last time you made that trade? You
So-
got
I'm not gonna lie. I was sitting here saying you need to add a 6 to that fourth so we can trade back into the third round later.
So
That's what I would do.
Preface that, Cole. Last week, that's what Ryan did. Ryan was like, just throw a 6-rounder on there, see if they take it, and they took it.
Ryan found
So
the
he picked
glitch
up-
in the system. That's what he did.
He picked up another 2 6-round picks. It was like,
You
what?
get a 4th and a 6, you can trade that back into the third. I'm telling you.
You finesse the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they gave me, hey,
Exactly.
if you're gonna give me a little green bar that tells me how far to push it, I'm gonna push it that far.
Like Madden when you're trying to get Khalil Mack 4 years ago and you just keep throwing draft picks into the trade. I'm only playing this franchise mode for 1 year.
Yeah, right?
Well, here's the situation, right? We're sitting at 27. The pick is ours to take unless we want to use one of these trades. Quiddy Pay is a guy that I know you said you were kind of high on. I think a lot of people like there, and it's at a position of need, and it would guarantee us 5 years of a rookie contract. So what's your opinion there?
I got to go pay. I got to take him.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
It's payday. Let's go.
Payday. All right, Quiddy Pay is the pick.
And just like to that conversation you and I had, Fred, like this
Yeah.
is where I see you having a board and your board tells you kind of who your top ranked players are. And then you have that kind of scaled need. And so you're
Right.
kind of seeing, what do we need to do based on need? This is where top guy on your board, top need, boom.
It all
easy
matched.
pick. It all
Yep,
matched.
Easy pick. Absolutely.
And it's a premium position where you're going to get value in that 5th year option.
Gotcha.
So interestingly enough, if we scroll down on the left side just to see what went right after us. So, we get Pay. Oa goes right after that. Then you have Davis goes, Newsom goes, and then Marshall goes at 31.
To the fucking Chiefs. The Chiefs just get richer. God damn them. I hate the Chiefs.
Say, keep Sammy Watkins. We don't need him.
Then you got Kadarius Toney. I know a lot of people are high on him. To me, he's like a Marquise Brown 2.0, similar player. I'm not saying he wouldn't work here,
Yeah.
but He goes 33 to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's going to have an exciting offense down there with
Apparently.
hell of a quarterback and a hell of a wide receiver.
I will say in this scenario, and it maybe not in this scenario because Morig went, Trevon Morig. If he was there when we were picking at 27, a sneaky trade candidate would be the Dallas Cowboys and their 44th pick in a trade back. If you could trade back to 44 and add something to get that pick 75 that they have, you would only move back 17 spots. That's not right math. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah.
you'd only move back 17 spots. You'd add pick 75, maybe give up one of your fifths, and you kind of stack 3 picks in between 44 and 75. So that's a really intriguing situation. And the reason I'm saying the Cowboys specifically, they need to upgrade their secondary. We just saw them take Patrick Surtain. I think if Trevon Morig was sitting there, he's a really good scheme fit. He fits what they need. I think he would be the kind of guy that, first of all, we'd consider him as a free safety best player available option.
Yep.
But I think the Cowboys would have a lot of interest in trying to actually, because that's the thing with these trade simulators. You actually have to envision, why would a team trade up back into the first round? I think that's a trade the Cowboys would make to get aggressive, to bolster their defense when they have all these highly paid offensive players.
That's
so
what
I just want to
he
throw
said
that
if-
out there.
If Morg would have been there.
If
I
Morg
was gonna say,
would
I
have
was
been
gonna say, I
situation.
thought he went. I had to go
Yeah.
back and check to double
Yeah,
sure.
I was just trying to give, because that's a scenario
Yeah.
I use in my head all the time when I screw around with this. I do what we all do. I try and figure out how to finesse the system.
Gotcha. All right, so let's let some picks roll off here, see if we get any trade offers.
Wrong button.
Yep, wrong one. Trade offers for the second round picks. Let's see.
All right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks, edge rushers starting to go now.
All right, so here's my question, right? We talked about the need at center, and that was an important need for me, and I should have stopped this earlier. Damn it.
You should have stopped at one pick earlier.
God damn it. I saw Landon Dickerson go, and I tried to hit stop, and then boom, before I could hit stop, Creed Humphrey went. So there it is. That was going to be my question to you, is whereabouts are you thinking that these two might fall? And obviously these guys went a little bit earlier.
About 45 to 48.
Yeah, about 45 to 48 would be there.
That's the evidence-based answer. I think in reality, I think they both go a little bit higher because there's a lot of teams in need of a center right now. But that's too, like, I don't really see Jacksonville going after a center, so that's kind of surprising. But Houston definitely, or Houston, the Raiders, whatever city
Las
they're in
Vegas.
now, Las Vegas. I definitely see. I definitely see them needing a center, so that's a good fit. So that's another one where I think you're looking at maybe that Chargers pick to make that trade up and target a team that isn't going to take a center. So this is the thing. We don't have a whole lot of roster spots, right? Like,
Right.
if you do trade back, you're not going to load up on, a 10 class rookie, 10 class rookie class, 10 spot rookie class. You're more looking at probably trying to maximize the value in top 100 picks. So I am for a trade up. I'm definitely looking at doing that when we get around to the third round pick. I think there's a lot of value in that kind of 75 to 85 range, especially with the way this board falls. So I would entertain that kind of trade up opportunity to get Creed Humphrey. If you came away with Kwity Paye and Creed Humphrey and you still had a third round pick, like, you're sitting pretty, I think.
Okay, and I know another guy you mentioned, Alex Leatherwood, still there. He's the 48th overall rated prospect on this board.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a guy that you're looking at here at 58, potentially moving up for, or are you
Mind you,
comfortable
we're
where
9
you're at?
picks away.
Yeah, we're 9 picks away.
I probably wouldn't move up for him, but he'd definitely be on higher up on my board when we get to pick 58.
All right, let's see where we are.
Run it through. Davis gone.
Yep. Radon's gone.
Freiermuth gone.
Freiermuth is one that was on our radar.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
All right, so here we go. We get an offer.
Again from the Panthers.
Another trade back. So we're trading back
That's far.
to
73.
73, picking up a 4 at 113 overall, picking up like a 5 at 151?
Yeah, 151.
151 overall, giving up our second and giving up our third, 104.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
Get out of
that
there.
All right, what's
does
the
not
next?
make sense,
What's
no.
the next rating? There's another.
Yeah, thanks, Scouts.
Yeah. All right, so on this one, the Broncos.
whoa.
Holy cow. So
They're giving you a third at 71.
And
a
so
fourth.
this is the exact scenario. I'm just like, we
Right, we don't need
need
these
all
players.
these picks. Like, I just don't see the value in it.
But it has paid off. I will say, we saw it pay off with the glitch in the system. that can wind up coming back and helping you later because you might be able to trade up in this situation.
That's right. Yeah.
We've seen EDC do that before where they've stocked, draft picks. We've seen Ozzy do it. They stock draft picks and then they wind up trading up for somebody. It happened with Lamar. We would not have Lamar had we not stocked up on draft picks.
That's
right.
true.
And been able to trade up in that scenario.
Yeah, but in this, you're getting out of the second altogether and you're moving back in the third, all to gain a fourth, a fifth, and a seventh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're completely taking yourself out of the second round. I don't
That's
like
bad
that's a no
offers.
for me.
Yeah, it's a no.
All right.
Okay.
Last week was better.
It was.
Last week was better.
All right, so at 58,
Leatherwood went the pick before us again.
yeah.
It's hearing us. Stop talking, everybody.
All right, so at 58 overall, one of the guys that I noticed right away on the board that a lot of people are talking about, De'Ami Brown out of North Carolina, the wide receiver, an electric guy that can play inside or outside. And, obviously Greg Roman likes to move wide receivers around in this scheme. He could be a potential guy there. We've already got an edge guy. I don't see us going edge. Brady Christensen, tackle out of BYU, is there. Brevin Jordan, an athletic
Tight end,
Miami tight end. We talk about the loss of having that second pass-catching tight end. That's an option there. Anybody jumping off of the board to you?
Milton Williams is good. Basham's good.
Basham's good, dude. That kid is an athletic freak.
Yeah. And this is the thing. If you go get Kwity Paye, you can have a guy like Basham, and it's not really a redundant pick because they kind of have different skill sets. You're looking at more of that 5-tech slide-in guy. It's tough to justify. I think where I'm debating here, it's really between Milton Williams, De'Ami Brown, and then Quinn, who I think I think he's lower down. But this is where I'd be considering picking him at 58. And it's kind of like when we're looking at the offense, this is the debate that's been going on Ravens Twitter all off season. Was it the offensive line? Was it the lack of a wide receiver? Really depends on where you stand on that side of the fence. I would be going after Quinn here. That would be my pick at 58.
How tall is this wide receiver? That's my question.
He is
Not
6'1".
Not tall enough. I'm out.
Well, you were in on Brashad Bateman.
No, you're all in on Bateman. I agree with you. You're okay, but I'm not hammering the table. I was in on Metcalf. That's my type of receiver.
Oh, get out of here.
All
So
right,
you're in on Quinn on this one?
Yeah, even though he's far down the board, but I got my own board.
I mean, a lot of people have been talking about him. I know our boy Garnett. He was in the chat room earlier talking about him as well. So, all right, if this is your pick, we're going to go into your offensive line, Wisconsin.
Are my scouts booing me, or are they giving me an applause? Or are they kind of
what's happening over there?
You're doing fine.
They're indifferent.
They're not sure.
Another Big Ten school right there.
That's right. All right, so let's get through
This is your
here.
ultimate Ravens draft where it's not flashy, but it's going to look real good in September.
There you go. So Basham goes at 67.
So we're about at pick 70, which is where you said you were starting to think about trading up for a potential guy. Did you want to take a look at the board and see who's on here?
Dude,
Anybody?
is my boy Tylan Wallace still on there?
Let me give it.
There he is.
There
Yep.
was. Yep.
Okay, so let's pause at pick 75.
75. Okay.
Yeah, if he's still there, which he should be.
All right.
Don't
Trumbull.
go.
Hunter Long, another tight end that was on the radar. Up 75.
All right,
75. So Richie Grant, they went safety.
So pick
Oh,
76.
shit. Did it go one too far? Is that who you're looking to trade with? Was
No,
Dallas?
but that's good. That's good. So
Okay.
this is where I'm in that territory where I'd be looking to trade 103 with a 5th-round draft pick or a 6th-round draft, whatever the green bar tells me to get up after a guy like
Hack that
Tylan
green
Wallace.
bar. It's expert level.
All right, so we're going to choose us, and then we're going to go with, where's the Giants? The NFC, the Giants, next. So we want their 76th pick. We're going to give up 104, and then you're saying 171 or 184?
184.
Nope.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
171.
Nope.
I think you'd have to give up both of them in order for it to even come close to green.
Let's see. Yep, there you go. Both.
Try
fifth.
a 5th and a 6th.
Drop the 6,
So
yeah.
let's do this 5th and this 6th. Oh,
Done.
there you go. Done?
Book it. Send that
All
off.
right. Let's send it over. See what the Giants say.
Giants
There it
accept.
is.
Let me
They
tell you, that
accept.
green line was too hard. We should have dropped down a top pick.
You're just
the
like
Ravens.
amateur.
I don't know nothing about football, but I know how far a green line goes.
So it's 76 back on the board. You're looking at Tylan Wallace, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma State. Tell us about him and what makes him exciting at 74.
The thing I like about him a lot is I see him as that kind of what we saw from Duvernay last year. I think a lot of people expected him to come in and just be a slot receiver because that's what he did a lot of at Texas. We saw him play a lot of the Z, and I think it was 50-50 split. He played like 163 outside snaps and about 151 inside snaps. So I think that surprised people, but he has that speed and he has that ability to track the ball that kind of projects well in terms of threading vertically from the outside. I think Tylan Wallace is similar in the sense that he can be a Z/slot receiver, but he offers a completely different skill set. He's going to run a little bit more horizontally for you, where Duvernay is going to challenge a little bit more vertically. This guy plays like a Raven. He's got that Steve Smith mentality to him where he's an undersized guy, but he's going to play like he's 6'3". He may not be DK's height, but he'll play like him. He's going to get out there. He's going to block his ass off, though I'm not going to say that's why I'm drafting a wide receiver. It is a consideration, but not the consideration. But I see him as one hell of a fit in this offense.
Well, so the other question I got for you there, just me throwing a name out there, is a guy who must be like 8'9", Nico Collins, right out of Michigan. This guy's an athletic freak, 6'4", 215 pounds. He's got the size of the prototypical X wide receiver. The guys in here seem to like this pick.
Yeah. That one.
I know. I know he didn't get a ton of usage at Michigan, but what's your take on Collins? I mean, have you looked at his tape? Do you know much about him?
I had a thread on him about 3 weeks ago. I'm extremely high on him, actually. I really like him. I think he's a good fit. I think he fits kind of that speed that we need to put at the outside to threaten vertically. I think that if you have a guy that can truly threaten the boundary deep, the way Hollywood Brown does, I think it really would stress the defense in terms of stacking that box to stop the run game. If you have Hollywood at flanker and you have a guy like Nico Collins that's going to get deep on you, how do you justify stacking the box with, an extra safety and you only have one deep center safety? And that's the thing about Lamar's deep throwing. He doesn't throw the best anticipating breaking routes deep, but he throws a perfectly good deep ball, like in terms of hitting those 9 routes. And that's what he did so well in 2019. So I think Nico Collins makes a ton of sense. I've been on the Tylan Wallace train for so long. I saw someone put in the chat, how many 5'11" wide receivers do we need? The answer is 3. The answer is 3.
I'm so sick of these tiny little wideouts.
But at the same time, so the issue that you could wind up running into with Collins is only 215. It becomes a smaller, even smaller Boykin type scenario. Is can he use his size? Can he be physical against a physical cornerback or a safety that's going up against him? I don't know that I can say that I've seen enough from him that he can do that on a regular basis. Versus, I think they said on Tylan Wallace, he's strong on 50-50 balls. He plays that larger size, like you were saying. So that's my only thing about Nico Collins. We have not had the greatest success with drafting wide receivers that are physical. Period. It doesn't happen. So that's my concern. Is if you're going Nico Collins, are you going down that same exact route?
Well, it's funny you said that because Spencer Schultz, our buddy on Twitter, Ravens for Dummies, him and I, we were talking about Nico Collins in our DMs the other day, and he went back and watched Miles Boykin against Clemson in the college. I think it was the playoff. I don't think it was the national championship.
No, it was the playoff.
It was the playoff. And so if you go back and watch that game, and I encourage anyone that dislikes Boykin, he played so damn physical in that game. He's got his hands up on corners all the time. I don't know where that player went when he got to Baltimore.
It's a confidence thing, man. For me, I've seen it in him since day one. He lacks confidence. I really think that's what it is.
Here's the thing I brought up. Do you guys remember preseason? He had all those training camp reports, and we know how training camp reports are, and they can blow smoke up someone's ass. But he came into the preseason, and he had, in his first game, I think he had 2 drops right away. And then he caught a 17-yard touchdown that was a beautiful catch, but it was called back because he pushed off.
I remember. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I remember when he made that catch, and I'm like, there's the potential. That's what we want to see. But then he got called for pushing off, and I'm not trying to say I understand this guy from a mental point of view because I don't know the dude at all. I don't know what he's being coached or anything about him personally, but I didn't see him start to do anything like that after that play. But then you go back and watch his Notre Dame games, and he's physical. He's physical at the line. He gets his hands up on guys. He runs through guys. Like it's tough because like I do agree. I think a lot of people have said, you know, what's the point of drafting Nico Collins because we have Boykin. I personally think they're a little bit different. I think Collins is a lot more explosive off the line of scrimmage. I think he works better through press because he runs through guys, whereas Boykin kind of takes those side stutter steps to run around guys. So I think there are some unique differences that mean they're not the same player. But as for 50-50 balls, how many 50-50 balls has Lamar Jackson thrown? How many times did he throw the ball up for Des Bryant, who was, I mean, like there was that time where, forget what game it was, maybe Jacksonville, but he was on the boundary one-on-one, a guy just sitting in the corner. What a perfect time to just throw up a 50-50 ball, but Lamar just doesn't seem to do it. It doesn't seem to be his game. It isn't where he's found success in the red zone. So I think the argument is that a missing element of this offense that they could develop, or is it not something they see Lamar Jackson doing? That's kind of where I think it's at with a philosophical conversation.
But he does throw into tight windows. You got to have somebody that's going to be physical and fight for the ball.
That's right. That's right. And that's where I think, like, yeah, Collins might be 4 inches taller than Wallace. I completely get that. But I'm going to trust Tylan Wallace to climb the ladder and go get that ball.
Michigan had some real bad quarterback play this year. For him to get this far, he's probably got a little bit more potential we could see with somebody like Lamar throwing the ball.
And look at Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I think fell a lot because his tape probably wasn't that ideal. But then Collins, like, I mean, I tweeted it when I was watching that film, like, how bad is Shea Patterson? Like, that was terrible in 2019. No, that's a very, very good point. And I think Matty Weiss, who's, again, another buddy on Twitter, he made the point. I know he loved Peoples-Jones when he was coming out. And it's like, is it the same thing with Nico Collins? Was he, like, his production was probably hurt, but was, you know, some of the things he could have put on tape to get teams excited, was that hindered by Shea Patterson being the quarterback? I think there's a lot of evidence to support that.
Look at the difference in Freiermuth this year versus the year before.
Yeah,
Freiermuth didn't do anything this year with bad quarterback play.
So even with the debate here, your pick still Tylan Wallace.
I respect the debate. I completely get it. What are my scouts saying? What are you guys are saying, Nico?
I think the scouts like Collins' ability better just because of the size.
I agree with him. I think Tylan Wallace is the way to go. I think Nico winds up turning.
I'm tired of short people.
Scott's picking the short guy.
Would you be tired of Steve Smith, though? Because Steve Smith was a short guy that played a lot bigger. So, I mean, Tylan Wallace, to his point, could be that type of player.
I saw this guy's pro day. He had a pretty good vertical.
Yeah, he goes up and gets it.
Yeah.
I'm going Wallace.
So we're going Wallace here. We're going Wallace here.
Boys, I'm only 5'8". I got to go with Wallace.
There you go.
I love it. All right, so did we get rid of...
I can't wait till I'm going to a Ravens game. The Lollipop Guild walks up on me.
Did we trade our fourth?
Did we trade our fourth?
No, we have 130.
No, we have the one
more
fourth
left. Okay, all right, cool. All right,
we have
so
a fourth
let's see
and
what
a
happens. Wewell, we're only doing 4 rounds on the mock.
Okay.
So trade up if you want to show some more stuff off.
All right, so we just entered the 4th round here.
All right, so we'll stop here at pick 115.
There's Stone sitting there at 105.
Yeah, Stone Forsythe sitting there at 105. James Hudson out of Cincinnati.
Oh my God, is he gonna make it?
Trade up.
My scouts are nodding. Is that
Trade up?
All right, let's go up. Let's go up and get Stone.
So let's review our picks real quick just to see where we're at, right? So we've got our interior guy. This is the guy that you said could slide into center, correct?
Yep.
Quinn, right? So we've got our edge rusher. We've got our wide receiver. So right off the bat, I mean, we've nailed 3 big needs that we need.
And those are the 3 biggest needs. One,
And
two,
we don't need.
And a Stone Forsythe could kind of come in and wind up, sitting behind Orlando Brown for a little bit. Let him develop, let him watch, and then when Orlando's gone, or if you get the ability to trade him after the draft, then you already have his replacement. He might need a little bit of work, but it's something that's worth it.
All right, so let's call the Cowboys and see what it's going to take. NFC Cowboys.
I mean, if we threw in a 2022 fifth, like, who's saying no to that?
So we've literally got 1 pick left. So they're going to take it. If we give them the 5th, they would take it.
Can we
So
do our
let's-
2022 fifth instead of our current fifth?
Let's see. 2022.
Oh, we
don't
don't
have a
have one.
fifth. We have a sixth. Let's see if they take it. No.
And I'm
How
not
about
giving
a
them
fourth.
Do you want to do 2 force? They would definitely take that. You're trading out of the draft.
This year's fifth versus next year's fourth.
But to his point, we're not going to be. We don't have a ton of roster spots, right? And in this draft already, we've got 3 spots that are going to be crucial to this team's success immediately, right? If we know, like you said, Orlando Brown Jr. is not going to be here, whether it's this year or next year. If you're nailing 4 big gets in this draft by trading out now and giving up your 5th, I think this makes sense. It's all impactful guys in the next year.
I look at it and say it's not only is that something that you wind up doing. What are you doing?
This
was an
year's
option.
fifth, next year's fourth.
But that
like
completely
that.
defeats the purpose of trading up now, though.
We're still going up. We're trading our fifth to their
next
fourth.
year's
Oh,
4th.
okay. What do you think? You like it?
Is this not just finessing the system?
It is. It's Ryan finessing the
Hey,
system.
it says very likely. It's not even kind of likely. If I was finessing the system, I'd play a little bit more.
All right, well, we're going to do it. Let's send it over, and we're going to get 2 4th-round picks this year. I like it.
they
There we
accepted
go.
it.
Let's
There
go.
it is. All right.
GM of the year over here.
Nailed it.
I'm going to do my own when I get home and see how many picks in the top 4 I can get.
All right, so we're sitting at 115 right now. We got the pick of the litter between Hudson and Forsythe. Which one do you like better?
So that's actually a good question. I think Stone Forsythe fits a little bit more of the mold the Ravens would look for. James Hudson is a guy I like a lot, but he's a little bit lighter and he's probably a better fit for more of a zone scheme. So I'd be going Forsythe with this pick, but I do like Hudson.
Florida offensive tackle goes before the Florida court.
Just so you guys can see how much of a monster this guy is. 6'7", 329 pounds. That is OBJ's replacement if I've ever seen
We've
it.
drafted Stone both weeks now, and he needs to be a Raven.
Yes.
With that name, he 100% needs to be. All right, so we're taking Forsythe here at 115. Let's see. So
There's our 131 pick coming up.
You can probably trade that.
we don't have anything left to trade.
You can trade back.
Trade back.
All right, so at 131, what are you thinking before we even look at the board, though, at 131, knowing that right now we've addressed edge, center, wide receiver, tackle. What are you thinking position-wise is a potential need? I mean, are we thinking like safety? Are we thinking the inevitable cornerback or interior defensive lineman like the Ravens do every single year? What are we thinking here?
Jake Funk.
Jake Funk. I like Jake Funk.
I would be looking defense here, and there's kind of 3 positions I'd be looking at a true free safety, someone that could develop as kind of a center field safety, maybe play a little bit in the dime in year 1. I'd be looking at a bit of a kind of like a nose tackle, but someone that could also play a little bit of 2-eye 3 tackle. So I'd be looking interior defensive line, someone that could kick Jelly off the roster because he's terrible. And then I'd be looking at specifically a slot cornerback because we don't have depth at all under Tavon Young, who can't stay healthy. So I'd be looking at those. Those would be my 3.
All right, so let's look at safety first and see who's on the board. You're going to have to run down some of these guys because I haven't dove deep enough into this draft to know anything about some of these guys.
I love
to be honest
James
with you.
Wiggins. James Wiggins is a damn good fit.
6 foot, 205 safety out of Cincinnati. This is a
All AAC
quote
honors.
unquote center fielder, free safety.
I shouldn't say he's a quote unquote center fielder, but he's a really good fit for what the Ravens usually look for in kind of those safeties. So it's going to be tough to kind of find those true free safeties in the 4th round. So I think this is a guy where I could actually envision him having a role. I think he could fit really well in the dime. He played some really good split safety for the Bearcats. I got to watch a couple of their games, so I do think it's a really good fit.
Okay, interior defensive line.
So my guy here is Chris Tonga and Bobby Brown. They're 2 guys that I'm really high on. I know, again, they're lower rated here, but Tonga is an absolute animal. He's virtually unblockable one-on-one, even against some of the top competition. So he's a beast. I like Bobby Brown a lot too. So those are 2 guys I'd be considering. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up anyone's ass. I haven't gotten to watch West Virginia's defense, so I haven't seen Darius Stills, but I know there's quite a few people high on him.
He ain't related to Bobby Brown, the rapper, right?
He's the third, of course. 6'1", 281, Darius Stills. Kind of light for an interior defensive lineman.
You're looking at more of like a 3-tech there, someone that's going to be more of that kind of. That's where I think it's a little redundant to go after another defensive tackle. What I'd be looking at here, if I'm looking at the D line, it's really that kind of Brandon Williams backup, and also some insurance if he's injured, because every time he gets injured, we fall apart run defense wise.
Gotcha. All right, last position you had of need, it was corner. We're going to look for slot corners.
That Chris Tonga gives me a Haloti Nada feel. I like it a lot.
He's an animal too.
Anybody here in these top 4 picks that you're looking at corner?
So again, I haven't watched a ton of corners because it's not my forte, but I know people are pretty high on Trey Brown. I think he's more of an outside guy, but there's no one that's really the guy that I have a lot of interest in is the Wisconsin guy, Wild Goose, but he wouldn't kind of be a pick here. I think he'd be more of like a 5th, 6th round pick.
195
overall.
So I don't know if any of you Big Ten guys like him, but I thought he looked like he had some transferable skills when I watched them. That would be a nice fit.
Oklahoma doesn't play any defense, so I don't want their cornerback.
Can I make a suggestion and see what's on the board at tight end right now? Just for the simple
tight end's a good one too.
Just for the simple fact that we know the 3 tight end set works. Right?
Yeah, and Trey McKitty is a guy that really fits what they want in that kind of move tight end third role. I mean, they just got that Eli Wolf kid out of Georgia, so I think they like a lot of the things Georgia does with their tight ends that could fit that scheme. So I haven't watched. I watched a little bit of Kylan Granson. He's pretty solid, but I think with this pick, I'd be going with. It would come down to Tonga versus James Wiggins for me.
Okay.
I personally think interior defensive line is the more important position because you got Calais Campbell probably in his last year here, probably going to be retiring soon. Brandon Williams, his contract's up soon. Do the Ravens bring him back? There's some question marks on the interior defensive line. Obviously, Broderick Washington, he's got the off-the-field issue that he's dealing with now.
Forgot about that.
So there is a need on interior defensive line. Ryan likes him because he's getting Haloti Nada feels, so I think that's the the apple that seals the deal here. So I think Tonga is the choice. So we'll go Tonga here. So
great draft, people.
I think it was a very good draft. Round of applause for everybody. Cole, man, this was a lot of fun. Appreciate you taking the time out of your night, man, to do this with us. We got to do this again in the future. Hopefully, we're talking some of these names that we drafted tonight on Ravens Draft Night, man.
Well, if we're not talking Stone Forsythe, we did something wrong.
That's right. Right. That's absolutely right.
So just to recap the Ravens picks for us, Kwity Paye, Quinn Marinez, Tylan Wallace, Stone Forsythe, Kyrus Tonga.
It's a damn good draft. I like
it. A+, if you ask me.
Absolutely. And we
it.
did, for sure.
Hey, Cole, if it's not below you, I was just talking to Ellis, trying to get Ellis McKinney on for offensive line show. I'd like to do that with the Terps if you're interested.
Sure. Yeah.
Break down some Terps linemen with us.
Yeah, no, that'd be sick.
All right. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it. Hey, Cole, tell everybody where they can find you again on social media, just the way everybody can hit you up.
Yeah, no, Cole Jackson FB on Twitter. I'm always looking for a good debate, a good argument. So come find me. We keep it Canadian around here, so we keep it friendly and fun. Couple stories. No, thanks so much for having me on, guys. It's a blast to join and fun doing the mock draft. And thank you to my scouts out there. I needed you guys. Couldn't do it without you.
And we'll don't worry. I will make sure to send you some JO Spice, and then you can give us the real idea. All right, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks so much, boys. Cheers.
Cheers. Right, take care. That's awesome.
All right.
That's awesome. That was a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah, for sure. We went damn long. We're an hour and 30 minutes into this show, and we're still on the Ravens.
Ryan, we're going to run through this social media shout out real quick. Maybe.
Hit the button.
Man, why did I make the stinger so long? We're wasting precious seconds.
Call us for a trade.
How am I on there?
All right, Ryan, I haven't had a chance to really pay attention to the chat room a whole lot in this. Who's been out there? Who's been chiming in?
All right, we got Buffalo Chuck, Jamal Caldwell, Q Hut, who might be new, but he's talking so much it's probably just a different social media account. Andrew Sakura, Lamar's daddy, Samuel L. Jackson, Dominic Henson, Nick Short, hashtag Drew checks in from Disney World.
Nice.
And Steph Summers makes it a family event again, says boo J.O. Spice. So she's got better taste than
Thank you, Steph. I appreciate that.
Garnett West, Craig Zero, Asmodeus Theodonatos. Yep. Nope. Got to work on my Troy. And that's about it.
All right, man.
It's been a good night.
Appreciate it. All right, Scott, it's time for some bros, bows, and O's. The Orioles are off to a roller coaster start, let's just say, to start the year.
Yeah, they're 4-5, tied for what? I think fourth in the AL now at this point. They were tied for first. Now they're tied for fourth. Not liking the way that this is going. But before we kind of get into to the team itself, I want to take a minute, really quickly. We both got to go. You got to go with Joe to the game.
I did.
So, some pregame stuff. So obviously you were the only one that was able to get down there for pregame for Pickles.
I was the only alcoholic of the group, yes.
How was it down there?
No, it was a lot of fun. It was very different. Obviously, I've gone to almost 20 opening days in a row, and every year I'm down at Pickles doing the same thing, and you're asses to elbows with everybody down there for hours, and you love every minute of it, right? It's the one time a year that I can actually enjoy being that close to people. This year, you get down there. I get down there about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's nothing but gates, picnic tables, and high tops all out in the parking lot.
By the way, I don't know how you got in because apparently you were supposed to have a reservation. Did you oh yeah, I got a reservation?
No, they didn't ask me if I had a
that
reservation.
at all. They said it was first come, first serve, and to let your friends know to hurry down there is what they told us at the gates.
And that's the thing. So once you were in there and you got a spot, they weren't telling you to leave. You were still spending money and you were still having a good time. They weren't asking anybody to leave. But once those seats were gone, they weren't letting anybody else in. They weren't letting anybody else in until
I saw pictures like the line was.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of a line outside of the gate, and they weren't doing anything to social distance those people. So,
you're on the street. Screw you.
Yeah. Everybody that was inside the gate, everybody was very respectful, stayed at their tables. The food was good. They were serving food out there to everybody. They were still serving it quickly.
Well, they had to, right?
What do you mean?
They could not serve just beer out there. They had to serve food.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting. Well, the food was good. That's the first time I've actually eaten Pickles food.
The outdoor dining stuff. That's why.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. They had orange crushes. I'm telling you, they were serving these things in fucking like Slurpee cups. They were huge. They were like 40-ounce orange crushes.
Did you have to work? Were you down there drinking with him?
No, but I came down twice sober to see what was going on.
Came down to make sure he was still alive.
Yeah, I came down on a little 30-minute exercise break and my lunch break.
There was a stark difference in me and my date from the time he showed up the first time to the time he showed up the second time.
Checked in at 10:30. We had a nice, pleasant conversation, having a good time. We just, all right, we'll see you guys later. Came back at 12:30. People are falling off stools.
You fall off a stool?
No, not me. But okay. We had a good time. It was a lot of fun. Joe got down there around like 2 o'clock, I guess it was. Did you get down there? Yep. And walked into the stadium, which was different. I mean, expectedly enough. I mean, obviously they only let 11,000 people in there, but Joe and I, we decided to get some food and some drinks prior to going to our seats. Learned the hard way that the food was pretty limited as far as the selection goes.
Thanks for paying, Scott.
You're welcome.
Right. Along with the condiments.
Oh, yeah, that are non-existent this year. Oh, you can get condiments. You have to ask for them while you're there.
Yeah, we found that out later. They didn't volunteer this information at the register. I ate a plain-ass hot dog and enjoyed it.
I ate 2 of them. But
Sounds gross.
And us I asked for 2 beers. You asked for 1. Somehow you got 2 beers. I asked for 2 hot dogs. Somehow I got 3 hot dogs. Might have been, I don't know. But just even before getting into the stadium, Joe got to experience it a little bit. The parking lot issues. You're opening up the stadium an hour before the game, and you're opening up the parking lot at the same exact time. They didn't want lines. Guess what there was?
Right.
There was a line on the ramp to get down off of 395, and there was also a line to get into the stadium. So it defeated the purpose. It was so stupid. We got down there at like 1:15. My dad literally did laps around the city and we went and got on 95, went a little further down on 95 just to kill time because they weren't even allowing you to line up. Then we come back down and they're like, yeah, we're not opening it ahead of time. It's opening at 2:05. All of a sudden we come back up and I see some cars on 395 that are stacking up right there at the top. And I'm like, they're letting people in or line up. And Dad's like, what? And there's a line on 3. He goes, yeah, there is. He had pulled over on 95 at that point, put his flash on, just waiting.
Wow.
Just like, all right, we got to kill time.
See, you could have called me. I was walking back and forth. I could have parked in a federal garage and moved on.
Well, he already paid for parking, so it was there. But you get down there and the lines were just so crazy. It was so pointless. Then we get there. The food pieces, the lines were out the yin yang. Come to find out, the lines were out the yin yang because the system went down.
Well, they had limited staff too behind the registers.
And the system went down across the entire stadium. So you literally looking and nobody's ringing anybody up because they can't.
Right. And no cash.
Right. So you're seeing all this.
Speaking of the no cash thing, which I thought was kind of interesting, they had reverse ATMs in the stadium where you would feed it cash and it would give you a card. First time I've ever seen anything like that outside of like a casino, maybe.
Yeah, I guess it winds up giving you like some.
Those are just called slot machines, Fred.
Yeah, But no, so
doing the gambling thing all wrong.
It's the lines, right? That are there. You had the issues with that. And not only did it go down there, we actually walked up. We got lucky when we got our food because we walked up like there's nobody in line. Like, what's going on? And then another lady's like, she tells us that the system was down, but just wait here. We'll get your order ready, and as soon as we're ready to pay, you can pay. And I was like, all right, fine.
I got a question for you guys. Did you think the hot dogs taste different from not being SK?
There was a boiled hot dog, and then it was plain on top of that. It was terrible.
Because I know a lot of people complained about them.
I can tell you the pizza sucked.
So they weren't. So what people can complain about all they want. The past, obviously, there was nothing last year, but 2 years ago, it wasn't SK hot dogs either. So they got away from SK hot dogs 3.5 years ago.
No, they had SK.
They did not have SK hot dogs in 2019. They did not have SK hot dogs. I can guarantee it. I will put my life.
Take a picture. Huh? You got a picture from the ballpark?
No, they said it. They said it in 2019 that they were.
I thought it was the year that the COVID started. That was going to be the first year.
No, it was 2019 that they didn't have SK hot dogs, and there was a difference. And this year, not only were they not, was it not SKs, which it is what it was, but they did taste different. They almost, honestly, the two that I had, taste like they were actually cooked the night before. If I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah,
they were
good.
They were.
Well, that's because they didn't have ketchup on them. So
they were almost but they literally they weren't on the rollers.
No, but I knew a lot of people complained about it.
They weren't on the rollers. They were pre-cooked. They weren't pulling them off the rollers and putting them in the bun. They were getting them out of a
certainly not
case.
The hot dog race was still great. Yeah. The hot dog race was awesome.
Ketchup won on opening day like it wins every year. But no, so the register systems go down a second time actually. So I went down to my seats after we got some food and some beers.
Yeah.
I go down. My son says, "I want a water." All right, I'll go back up again. They go down again.
Scott didn't watch any baseball. He was standing in line the entire game.
I was so annoyed.
Well, did you miss the pregame ceremonies? Because there really wasn't a whole lot to miss.
I missed part of it. I missed when they were talking about Mo Gabba. So I missed that kind of second half because I went down there and after I went back up and it was like, okay, the register's down. I just went back down to the seats. I was like, Bud, can you wait? And he was like, yeah, I can wait. I was like, okay, perfect. We'll wait till after this. When everybody when they were doing the instructions, they finished the last instruction. I ran up to get water.
I know I have been saying for a while that opening day ceremonies needed a refresh.
Damn straight, Garnett.
What he said?
And I think he said no lube. I mean condiments.
Nothing to help it glide down. It wasn't there.
But I've been saying for a while that opening day needed a refresh. It's been the same thing year after year after year. Well, there was a lot of change this year, right? There was no grand opening, orange carpet that led from center field down to the infield. They didn't have that. You didn't have the players come out from center field. There was a very familiar voice not involved in the stadium.
Jim Hanna gone.
Two of them.
Yeah.
Two up.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. So just a totally different vibe. Obviously, the feel-good story, Trey Mancini comes out. He got the applause that he deserved. That was kind of a tearjerker. But, Joe, what was your take on opening day? I mean, I know you've been to quite a few and yourself.
Well, going down, I was going about 30 miles an hour on 95
because we called him and said you can't get
He's
in.
like, you can't get in. So I'm like, all right, let me go to the right. Just go slow. But I waited in line. It was a lot of lines for only having 11,000 people. And we've been at
10,000, by the way.
Oh, 10,000.
10,150 was the final count.
We've been into a lot of games where there's a ton of people there, and they handled it so much better. It's like they took a year off and forgot what they were doing, or they had all new staff because I don't recognize anyone around. I was sad not to see the beer vendors, even though we knew they weren't going to be there. You know, poor those guys.
It was very disorganized.
It was disorganized.
Yeah, and I will say the what do you call them? The zip ties that they used.
Nice.
To tie these
heavy
seats
duty
together.
ones?
I mean, these things were industrial zip ties.
I did see one guy that was, we'll just say he was pushing five bills, and he just straight out powered through one and broke one.
I'm
so he
sure
could sit
it
with
took
his friends.
every pound that he had to give because those things were strong.
They were. But, you know, not to mention those things. Obviously, you talked about, you know, Jim Hunter not being there. Rob Long did the announcements. The national anthem. Rob Long, I think, actually, he didn't go as long as he was supposed to. Then you had the national anthem, which she was trying to stretch it. I was not a fan of it.
I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, golly, just get it over with. What is happening? Why are we going on so long?
Well, then she goes, the land of the free. And it's like, you didn't hold that free note? If you'd have held that free note, we might have gotten the flyover in time.
They were like, just slow it down for 30 seconds. And she got it right to 30, and she thought she was going to kill it. Like, free. Wait another 30 seconds, and then the plane's going.
Exactly.
It was such a delay.
Yeah, it was bad. The speaker issues out in the outfield. Joe, I don't know if you noticed it.
Loud.
It was loud, and you could not hear the PA announcements over it. It was as if they still had the volume up from pumping in the noise last year. Nobody thought to sit out there and see, oh, what does this shit sound like?
Yeah.
Nobody actually did that.
Rob Long's voice was so distorted because he was so loud. It was hard to hear him as he's announcing.
He sounded like he was
players.
shouting to me.
It did. I think there were some nerves along with it too, because this is his first time going through the whole thing, and that's a prestigious role to hold.
And the acoustics are different.
Yeah.
When you're up in the center field bar where he was and where they were holding everything versus being down on the field where we're used to seeing Jim Hunter.
And in the not full stadium, you're getting a lot of echo, you're getting a lot of reverb.
But the problems didn't end there because a familiar voice was not there announcing the players to each of their at bats and doing all the in between inning announcements. And it was Adrienne Robinson. First off, they had her PA mic, I swear, it must have been sitting on 1 and it should have been on 11 because you couldn't hear almost anything that she said. You had to, who's batting? Like, who's up? Because you couldn't hear her. And we all questioned it, right? Where the hell is Ryan Wagner?
Honestly, we didn't pick it up till like the third or fourth inning.
I picked it up in the first inning.
Yeah.
Because she was so low, like I didn't hear her to begin with, so I didn't really think about it or pay attention. Then Joe and I had started talking about it, like he said, I think second or third inning, and we're like, wait a minute, Ryan Wagner's not here. What is happening?
You want to know where I noticed it? Was Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Wagner would have done let's give an Orioles welcome back. Right. And we're glad you're here to third baseman Trey. He would have done something like that. It didn't happen. It's like now batting first baseman Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
What? Where's Ryan at? Where's going on?
The fans didn't let that ruin the moment. The fans did their job, and I think Trey appreciated that for sure.
And the Red Sox coming out and was Vasquez actually going out to the mound and turning around, putting his glove down, and just giving him a clap. All the players did their part. The fans did their part. The ovation went on longer than I thought it was going to, which I was more than happy to see.
Right.
But I think I don't want to get away from the Wagner situation for a second, because the next day we find out they release Ryan Wagner. The Athletic broke the story on Friday. They released him. He actually got to the ballpark on Thursday. He was there, and just hours before the start of the game, they send him home. Tell us about the story of the Athletic, because you're the one that saw the first one of us to see it and kind of run us through what they were saying.
Yeah, so I mean, basically they said that Ryan has had a history of some questionable tweets, and the team has talked to him about it in the past. And so he's been on that kind of, if you think about it from a corporate perspective, that whole coaching, corrective action course. They've warned him about some of his social media posts in the past. Apparently, he had another social media post, which The team has not released what specific post it is. I did some digging myself to try to figure out like what could have set the team off. Now, I don't know if maybe there was a post that got deleted, but for me, there were two tweets that he put out that I guess could have been taken in a certain way. There was one that kind of showed his political stance on a certain view. And then there was another one where he was just kind of having a genuine conversation with the fan who was talking about how long he's waited to go back into the stadium. He's like,
can't wait to hear your voice.
I've been waiting for blah, blah, blah days, and I've had to talk to myself for the last year. And it was just to be a funny thing. So again, I don't know if either one of those tweets were what set the Orioles over the edge, but those were the only two that I could find that were even remotely suspect.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two that are there, and if those are the issues, if that's why what it winds
ridiculous.
It's complete bullshit, right?
Is.
It's complete bullshit at that point. There's some things that he's tweeted about, like right field in Yankee Stadium is a joke, which. He's not. He's the PA announcer. He's not. He's not an analyst that you're paying. He's your PA announcer. I want to hear my PA announcer knocking other teams. I want to hear it in his voice, that excitement. Right. Those are the things that you want to hear and you want to see. So it sucks that he's not there. I hope more details come out because I want to know what those details are. Otherwise, I have my conspiracy theories that there's reasons that they want to just cut ties. They cut ties with everything else. Why not cut ties with Ryan Wagner too?
They've gotten rid of all their paid talent. He's the one that's been there the longest now related to everybody else. They can find a high schooler to do that job, and that's what they're going to do.
Well, here's the thing.
You're right.
The only thing that doesn't ring money to me on this was that it literally happened the day before opening day. If it was a money thing, they would have made that business decision weeks ago to plan for opening day. No. They literally made this call the night before opening day, found the next best thing that could halfway do the job, which was, and I'm not saying she did a bad job, but she found, I think she does.
She does the Sundays usually. She does some. She'll come up.
She does for Bowie, right?
Well, right, but she's filled in on Sundays. Mother's Day she's done before. Father's Day 2 years ago she's done some fill-in spot roles.
I heard
before.
that she was like in PA and she had to hurry up and run down here.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this all happened in result of something, and it sounds like it was in result of a tweet. That's why I say I don't think that this was a money ploy. Like, they tried to, they cut the fat in all the broadcasting and in many different ways.
Right.
I just don't think that's
But were they looking for a reason? That's the other thing that kind of comes in.
Or was it that very soft tweet, and when he was if they brought up to it again, like, we don't want you putting out these tweets, we've told you, he told off the boss, and now he's gone.
I mean, maybe.
It could be anything like that.
It could be. And I mean, again, if it was one of the two tweets that I mentioned in question,
I'd tell off the boss too.
He had every right to tell off the boss at that
It's
point.
gonna come
Absolutely
out.
ridiculous.
Well, let's turn our focus to run through some oh yeahs and some oh no's.
Yeah.
Some oh yeahs, some good highlights of the past week. Mullins, your boy Mullins is staying hot.
Yeah, I mean, this switch to him not being a switch hitter anymore, going to the left side of the plate, it's obviously working out really, really well for him. He came into this series hitting, where is his average? 459 going into today's doubleheader. I mean, he's got a crazy hitting streak going on right now that leads into last year. He made the amazing catch on opening day that we missed. Listen, Cedric Mullins to me has always been a guy that I thought could be a table setter, could be that legitimate leadoff hitter because of what he brings as a total package. He's got the speed, he's got the bat. He just hasn't been able to put it together all in one time at the major league level. He's finally starting to do that.
Yeah, we're seeing it. It's definitely good to see. The home opener, you mentioned, obviously, the Matt Harvey there. Pitched a decent game. It was well enough to win. The bullpen had some failures, but there's some bright spots coming out of Matt Harvey. It's not the 6-7 innings that we'd like to see, but 4 and 2/3 the first game, 5 1/3 the second game. I'll take it. Started the season, ease into it for a guy like Matt Harvey. Build up the trade value. He's looking pretty decent, so didn't mind seeing that. Yeah. We mentioned Trey Mancini. Saturday gets his first home run since coming back. Big moment for him. And opening day, he got his first base hit of the season. So he had some struggles at first at the plate, but kind of starting to come around. Maybe that's some nerves, right? Kind of pressing a little bit, wanting to come back.
I think that's what it is. He's just trying to do a little bit too much at the plate. Trey is a guy, though. He's a professional hitter. He'll get it figured figured out. I don't worry about it at all. And obviously, he's still got the pop in the bat. I mean, he's hit, 2 home runs now, both of them. Not just gimme home runs. I mean, they were good shots.
They were good shots. You know who also had a good shot was Ryan Mountcastle. Laser beam.
He did. Ryan Mountcastle.
Looked
He
good.
did. Joe over here.
We got an no coming up.
All right, let's jump into it. Joe, what's the first
No. So, as you know, this seats are zip tied. So there's 4 people in our row, literally 4 people, and we're in the middle. Perfect spot for home run balls. So it's, they're doing their warm ups and, doing their thing.
At the end of the
first inning, Mountcastle looks back and we lock eyes. Like, and I stand up like this.
And he puts 2 hot dogs in his mouth.
Now,
That's what he did with his hands.
I went like this. And Scott, as they taught in Little League, 2 hands catch the ball.
Yeah.
I'm ready. The ball's literally floating at me. And I'm going, I'm going to get a ball for my kids. I'm going to be the best dad in the world. And then
all of these thoughts are going through his head as this is happening.
And then all of a sudden, Big Bear Paul over here goes, one-handed in front of me. Butterfingers, and the ball flies off, goes in the front row.
I pulled a Dikembe Mutombo. No, not today.
You should have just batted it back onto the field if you're going to do that.
I was so confident I was going to catch that ball that I was surprised when I didn't. I was like, bam, it hit off the top 2 fingers and went down. I got the booze and everything.
I'm just standing there with both hands like this. Like, what just happened? Because we locked eyes. Like
We
this,
locked
everybody.
eyes.
This, and Fred just comes that way.
Full basket catch.
No, not today.
So he did get some shit.
Well,
it was funny.
Maybe that was probably part of the problem. Maybe Fred wore off on Mountcastle because Mountcastle
Can't catch
shit
Yeah.
in the outfield.
You talk about the oh-no's. Like Ryan Mountcastle, we all know what he can bring at the plate, but he hasn't even been doing that to start the season yet. I mean, he's got a home runner, I think 2 maybe at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, defensively, we all talked about why isn't Ryan Mountcastle here yet? Why isn't he up at the major league level yet? I don't care about the defensive blunders. We can deal with all that. He needs to be up here. Well, we're seeing why.
I didn't want the defensive blunders in the outfield, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I don't think he should be there. I think he should be rotating third base and first base, giving Trey Mancini some time off, on occasion, let him bat DH. But for whatever reason, they've stuck with him up until just a few days ago. He was the left fielder, and it was happening. But here's the deal. He's not the only one. He's having issues with tracking the ball, throws. Opening day, runner on second is like 20 feet off second, and he throws the ball. It was a laser beam. It wasn't bad, but he throws it to second. If that ball is not on line, we got a runner on third now.
Right.
You don't do that. It's fundamentals with these guys. And we see it again. The infield issues. We have bobbled balls from Franco, Ruiz, Urias, each with 1 error. Galvis, you're not impressed by.
I have not been impressed. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Freddie Galvis. I mean, when they signed him, it was all supposed to be he's another defensive gem in the middle of the diamond that they'll have. They're replacing Iglesias, obviously. He has not looked good defensively or offensively.
He hasn't had any errors, but he's not. He doesn't seem to have the range.
He is the slowest.
Did you see him
shortstop
the other night?
I've ever seen?
Did you see what he did the other night?
The base hit to go into extra innings?
He went to go field a ball, and he couldn't throw it because his hand got stuck in his hair. So he couldn't throw the ball.
That's not surprising. I mean, his hair is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, so that's why
Torrey got tackled by his hair and then he cut it. So maybe he'll cut his hair now.
No, he came up and
the problem is when you're a middle infielder and you're throwing the ball and your hand comes back behind your head, there's chances are you're going to hit your hair
That's
as
what I'm
wide
saying.
as it is.
I mean,
like that.
Torrey Smith, chances are you'll get tackled by your dreads, and he did. And next week it was gone.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can learn something today.
But then the other big fundamental. This is the one that I literally was screaming.
Oh, the rundown?
I was screaming at the TV.
Ridiculous.
Because you see this first and second pop throw. I will say it was a great pop throw down to first base. You get him in this rundown. You get Devers in the rundown. But you're not paying attention to the runner on third base, and he scores, and then you tag the guy out to end the inning.
Right. Yeah.
I don't care. Let him get to second base. If that means you got to throw it home to stop the run, if you got to start charging home or start charging, what you actually should do as whether you're a first baseman in Trey Mancini, whether you're Rio Ruiz, Freddie Galvis, I don't care who you are. In that moment, you are trying to get him in the rundown, but your eyes that entire time are on the guy on third base. And if he hits a quarter to a third down the line, you start charging him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's fundamental baseball. I learned that in 7, 8s, 9, 10s growing up.
Exactly. And so you start charging, and it just didn't happen. And the worst part about it is nobody saw it until he was 20 feet from home plate.
Yeah.
I want to bring my popcorn over here and watch a game with Scott.
God,
it's interesting.
Just fundamentals drive Joe knows fundamentals drive me nuts.
Well, good thing you missed that catch.
2 hands, Fred. 2 hands.
Yeah.
He was getting it for Emma.
Trying.
Joe just said, "Hey, just want to let you know, I invited you. You owe me a ball."
You're a
felt
guest
terrible.
in this house.
And then another one came a few innings later to the right of me, and I was hesitant to go grab it. I'm like, no, I don't want to miss it again. I didn't want to miss it again.
So the other big thing, and then I want to do one more little quick rant. Too many batters are getting walked. You're the one that kind of pointed this out to me.
Yeah, 30 baseball and balls in 9 games before tonight's doubleheader. Not going to cut it. Listen, this team's already got enough challenges as it is, just offensively, defensively, all of these things.
Strikeouts.
The pitcher's just got to get the ball over the plate. If you're going to get beat by these guys just hitting you nonstop, putting up 20 hits a game, let them do that. Let them prove themselves. I mean, even the best hitters, the Hall of Fame hitters, only hit 30% of the time, right? But if you're going to walk them, they're going to take every walk that they get. You can't be too careful to these guys. Let them put the ball in play.
No, and that's the problem is we're being bad on both sides of the mound, meaning not only are we getting the walks, right, but the strikeouts. We forgot to mention this. 5 straight games with 13-plus strikeouts, 10-plus strikeouts in 8 of our 9 games up to these 2 games. I don't know what's going on right yet, but 111 strikeouts in 9 games.
Yeah.
That is just absolutely ridiculous. These guys are swinging at pitches that are way out of the strike zone. They're not being disciplined at the plate. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. I thought we saw it in the first game of the Boston series, but they just got too cocky and just thought they could hit everything. So it is what it is. But the last thing I want to rant on, and I don't know if any of you guys saw this. There was somebody on Facebook, on one of the Baltimore Orioles Facebook groups, that happened to catch, and they put the video next to the radio call by Melanie Newman. We all saw the play at the plate. Santander throws it to Severino. He's out. It's a great double play.
Great play.
Ends the game, wins the game for the Orioles. Well, I want to share with you, this was Melanie Newman's call on the radio of that play.
Fry brings it all together. 1-2. LeMahieu swings, drives it out towards right field. Santander scoops in, runner takes off. The throw to the plate, Severino covers, and he makes the out. The Yankees have tried it 3 times. They won't succeed this time, but now laying on the ground.
That's
sheer disbelief as the Orioles.
She's more concerned about Urshela on the ground.
4-3.
This is a game-ending play from the outfield to beat the Yankees in New York.
Right.
I don't care if it's a regular season game. I don't care if the expectations for the Orioles aren't high. You are a color analyst. Where's the color? It's pretty fucking black and white to me.
And that's the thing. So I had to go look, and the guy actually he did a great job because I went to go look, and then I realized he put the link to what I was looking for. I was looking for a similar call from Joe Angel. There's people out there that hate Joe Angel. And I don't understand why. Because you get that same type of situation. Here's Joe Angel's call of a very similar situation to end the game and win it for the Orioles.
He delivers to Ramirez, who swings and he lines it over Machado, and that's a base hit. That ball is heading for the corner. Now Matuk is heading for third. He's going to be waved in. Here's the Machado relay, the tag. They got him! They got him! They got him! They got him at the
That's a hell of a call.
And that's how the ball game ends. The Machado relay. They got him at the plate. And the Orioles in the win column.
Right, you're the home.
That's a
analyst.
regular season game, just as much as the other game was a regular season game.
That is color commentary. I don't know why people don't like Joe Angel. To me, Joe Angel is right up there to an extent with the John Millers in our history of color broadcasting on the radio. John Miller is one of the best. I hated the fact that when he went to San Francisco. I hated that. I still hate it to this day. I think he should have stayed with the Orioles. They should have extended because
Orioles have had some great voices every
He's
time.
a great one. And even a guy I guarantee you, and Joe, you could back me up on this one. I guarantee you either of us could go find a very similar call from Jim Hunter.
Oh, yeah. Fred
Right?
Manfred probably too.
Right. And so, I get we're ushering in a new age and we're trying to do things.
But the new age is supposed to be less boring, not more boring.
Right.
You're supposed to bring
that's my
attention.
point. Is if you're going to be a color analyst on the radio, first of all, she says, "Oh, Santander scoops in." What the fuck does that mean? Did he scoop the ball up? Did it hit the ground?
You gotta pick up your lingo.
No, it was a line drive. If I'm calling that, it's line drive to Santander. He makes play. Runner's going from third. Here's the plate. Severino gets him. He's out. The Orioles win. Like, the call is there.
Yeah, it sounded like there was more people to be up at bat. Like the game wasn't over.
Right. That's what I thought when I heard that clip.
Yeah.
Is that it was just the end of an inning.
Yeah.
It wasn't the end of a game.
And then you have to wait. And she goes, Severino gets it, and that's it. The Orioles win it 4-3 in the 11th.
It never escalated during the call. You heard with Joe Angel out, it was as he turned third, he got a little bit more excited in his voice. And a little bit more excited. And a crescendo.
Crescendo, that's
for
the word I was
her,
looking for.
it was just flat. Nothing speech the whole time.
Even the out of the plate. And
She doesn't belong on Shell and Tell, much less with the Orioles.
And this is radio, not TV broadcast. You are supposed to be Bob Rossing it, fucking painting a picture.
Right.
There's a lot of car accidents.
Bob Ross.
Look, it's nothing against Melanie Newman in that sense. It's everything. The fact that if you're going to do this job, you need to embrace it. She's being called, she's called the color analyst, right? Then you gotta paint the picture to your point.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, you're losing listeners. You look dumb. I'm sorry. You look dumb. That was a great play to end the inning. Not to mention that guy that tried scoring. He started the inning on second base because of the new rule this year.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things. It
Also,
frustrated
everything
me.
against Melanie Newman. She was the only one responsible for that call, and she failed. And everything against all the announcers that aren't Rob Long. That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
All right, Scott, it's time for this week's Brew of the Week, Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. I drank it so fast that I don't even know how this tasted anymore. I don't even remember.
There's an extra one over there if
We're
you'd like
2
it.
hours into the show. I'm pretty sure I was done this
We're gonna
an hour
run-
and 45 minutes ago.
We're going to have to run through Shell and Tell. So this is from Mully's Brewery. It is out of Frederick, Maryland. So with them, this is their Defend the Frontier. It is a 7.4% IPA. It's not bad. It goes down pretty smooth for an IPA. It doesn't necessarily have the bite that we've had with IPA. Yeah, if you drank that whole thing before we got to it, it's there. The other thing that I bought, which wasn't bad, this one is actually from Nepenthe Brewing. So this is actually one that I said, hey, I want a milkshake IPA. What do you recommend? Jerry recommended this for me. So this is straight down to Baltimore, right down on Falls Road.
This is the meanest creamsicle you'll ever see in your life.
It is. But it's a creamsicle IPA. It's not too heavy, but not too sweet either.
Right.
It has a balance to it. IPAs are obviously it's an acquired taste. Milkshake IPAs make it a little bit more tolerable. But he did say that this company also has amazing food. So we're gonna have to try to figure out how to get down there to Nepenthe because
I-83 probably works pretty good.
yeah, I think so. So make sure you guys head up to Liquor Stop, 1510 Conowingo Road. Tell them Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off.
All right, Ryan, it's time for some Shell and Tell talk.
Is it?
Rapid fire. We're 2 hours and 6 minutes into this thing.
All right. Well, we're going to go a little quick.
Now you know how the Orioles segment feels, all right?
Sir, if you like,
get 5 minutes.
If you like any of these topics, please tune into actual Shell and Tell. We're going to talk these a lot longer later in the week.
We are.
All right. So basically, we had a couple more announcements this week. Ayala and Wiggins joined the Keep Your Options Open Club.
Yeah.
Where they decided to put their name in the NBA draft, but not hire an agent.
It makes sense. Like I said to you off air, I think all these guys are doing the right thing, testing the water, but I think we'll see a lot of these guys come back.
Well, I think a lot of people agree with you because we're still rating a lot of preseason polls, and if these guys leave, we're not much better than we were this year.
Right.
So We have another departure outside of the player ranks. It looks like DeAndre Haynes is leaving the coaching staff, going to join Shaka Smart's crew at Marquette. Haynes spent the last 2 years under Mark Turgeon. He came from Michigan under the John Boeheim coaching tree. Was given a lot of credit for his offensive prowess and for guard play. I haven't seen a lot of improvement in the guards that isn't just talent driven to me. Like our guards are good, they can shoot, but I haven't seen any new age techniques, any new offenses that Turge is letting him put out there. So if Turge isn't going to let him do his job, then maybe it's not that big a downgrade at all.
Yeah, I didn't see any loss with this. I mean, this was a guy, like you said, that came in. He did have some recruiting ties, which was good, which would just help Mark Turgeon. But outside of that, from an X's and O's perspective, I didn't see much of improvement from prior to him, the 2 years to the 2 years he was here.
Yeah, so as you see with our question background there, that's what we got right now. So where do we stand as a team? We stand as a team. We had 2 official transfers out. Anquan Smart is gone. Chol Mariel is gone.
So did Anquan Smart announce a commitment elsewhere, or he just put his name in the portal?
He put his name in the portal, but he had no nothing in his statement said that he was leaving the option of returning home to Maryland, just like the other guys did. Anquan Smart's looking for playing time. We already have replaced him with our 2 incoming transfers.
And you've got the other freshman from last year, Dockery, who's still around.
Dockery's still around, and Hart obviously was playing above both those guys.
Right.
Then we got a transfer in of guard, Fats Russell, who was a big upgrade over our guard that we lost in Anquan Smart, and our center of Quadis Wahab, who's a big upgrade over Chol Mariel. So for the 2 officials and 2 coming, we've done very well. The question is, what happens with our 3 to 4 if you include Galen Smith undecided individuals that makes us right back where we were, or a top 25, maybe even top 15 type team next year?
I mean, right now that everybody nationally's got them in the top 20 at this point, the way that they stand.
Which I think in order to get there, you have to bring 2 of the 3 home.
Yeah, I got to see a Wiggins come back. I want to see Ayala come back. I'd love to see Morcell come back. I don't know. I think the over the seas thing may come calling to him, and if he can make money over there, I don't blame him.
I think the only way you get Morcell back is if both of them do come back. I do feel even the coaching departure hurts, because when you're talking, let's give it another run, you wanted to see all the pieces back. Like let's give it another run. The same team that you've been running with. So the more people that leave, the less likely Morcell is able to go. So if Wiggins dips, I don't think you see Morcell at all.
Who knows? Maybe we see this big group press conference where everybody announces that they're making a last run.
The other thing that makes me think that as well is, of course, this every year, you don't have to announce when you're a senior that you're not coming back. So Galen Smith doesn't usually have to announce that you're not coming back. But he does have a year of extra eligibility available. And in order to be in the NBA draft, they have made the rule the NBA did that you have to announce that you're in the NBA even as a senior. Usually you don't have to make that announcement as a senior. You're just automatically entered into the pool of applicants.
Right.
So the fact that you've heard nothing from him is exactly, if I was Coach Turgeon, what I would do with Galen Smith. I would go, hey, stay quiet, stay in the shadows. I'd like to have you back, but if we try to upgrade that position, I don't want you existing on the roster scaring somebody off if they're not getting enough playing time. You know your role. You want to run this in. But stay quiet.
Doesn't
if he's your 3rd center or your backup 4 and 5, yes.
I agree with you, but that's asking a lot of Galen to just kind of sit back and hope.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's he doing? Is after college? What did you do after school? You just started applying for jobs. If you get a great job, you're not coming back. Well, if you don't get a great job, let's play ball.
The only other thing that we haven't clarified on this show was, can they use that extra year of eligibility elsewhere?
They can.
Okay. So that he does have options if he wants to go elsewhere.
And he has not announced he's entering the transfer portal either.
As of yet.
So, as of yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right, so that's it with basketball. Again, we'll get into deeper later this week. Football, not hearing good news like QB front again. QB2 currently, and preferred walk-on Eric Najarian, rumored to have a season-ending upper body injury. This was originally rumored, and then he was seen at practice only handing the ball off for an entire practice, no throws, which makes me think oblique, elbow, or shoulder. Most likely shoulder, because elbow or oblique could be injured further by practicing, and your shoulder is only going to get injured from throwing. So
sounds like that last open scholarship that we have might switch and go over to the importance of quarterback instead of offensive line.
You would think that, but everything I'm seeing is still offensive lineman. And the argument is, if you get another quarterback in here that knows they're going to be behind Talia, how much of an upgrade would that be over what you have anyway? What you do is you get an offensive lineman that keeps Talia clean and keeps him upright all year. And if you don't keep him upright all year, then your season was pretty much lost anyway, no matter who was back there. So if you don't have a lineman to keep your second string quarterback clean, what good was he? Because he only lasted one game because now he's injured too.
I get it, but that's a big gamble.
It is a big gamble. The team still stands by the fact that VMI QB Reese Udinski with his torn ACL in spring is going to be ready for fall in some kind of Martian type surgery that has him ready in 4 months. And then other big news is on the offensive line. Yeah. So this was kind of unexpected. Spencer Anderson, who played a lot of right tackle for us last year, he's been moved into the center position. I actually was going to mention that to your buddy as a good case study on the same team, moving from tackle to center to see how those things translate.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think this was obviously center was a position of need, so I think they were kind of forced their hand here to do that.
Yeah, Johnny Jordan left for Virginia Tech last year and kind of let their hand out.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, they still have that open spot with scholarship. A nice starting center would be sweet.
Yeah, they were hoping Austin Fontaine would take that spot. He was originally the one practicing it. There was reports that he came in extremely underweight. And apparently with this change with Spencer Anderson from tackle to center, obviously he was underperforming as well. I think with Talia being the right-handed quarterback, you're probably going to beef up your whole left side and just hope, and being athletic, that if he sees something come from the right side, he doesn't get killed. Same thing, you're just trying to keep him upright. Right. So you got those three probably going to lock down the left-hand side.
What about Emilio Moran? I know he was a big freshman that came in last year.
Yeah, Emilio Moran, he was a 3-star freshman. He came in at 6'5", 308 last year. Impressive tape. Played a lot of guard in high school, believe it or not, even though he was definitely the biggest kid on the line. Yeah. But he's that athletic that they were able to use his size and pulling and move him around more instead of just being a wall that you're not coming around. So he played a little bit of right tackle for us last year, and it looks like he's your starter if you don't get a transfer in. And he beefed up this last year. He's 6'6", 330. So that's a big upgrade in 1 year.
That's a huge guy for your tackle spot.
Yeah, so hopefully that's, as of right now, that's your right tackle. I will say that they have put out offers to 6'7", 308 immediately eligible Max Ray out of Ohio State. His quote that makes me think that we have a run at this is, "My time to play is running out. I can't afford to wait another year." Well, we got an open spot for you, boss man.
Yeah, man.
And Emilio Moran is not gonna, be worried about playing guard. Like I said, it was most of his high school time. So if you stick this man in at right tackle for us, you got our solid Duncan on left tackle, and now you got Moran playing guard. All of a sudden, your starting lineup's looking pretty thick. You got your last year's right tackle playing center. Right. That's a Big Ten offensive line now.
Yeah, and we need a good rotation on the offensive line. To your point, especially if you're not going to have the depth at the quarterback position behind Talia, you got to do everything that you can to keep him upright and to keep him protected. So offensive line depth is going to be key.
Yep.
For sure.
All right, man.
All right, Scott, it's time for this week's rundown. I'm going to let you kick this week's off with the first topic.
So this week we had history at the Masters. If you didn't hear about it, Hideki Matsuyama won this weekend's Masters, a score of 10 under. Look, this Masters wasn't super exciting. We saw Phil Mickelson struggle. We saw Rory McIlroy struggle. Jordan Spieth looked like he was making a run and then fell off. Justin Rose was kind of the big name that held it and just couldn't hold off Matsuyama. Matsuyama just kept going for it, kept hitting the birdies. Just wasn't overall an exciting one. I think in part because Phil wasn't really involved. Phil barely. I don't think Phil made the cut. I didn't see a whole lot of Phil at all, except for day one, day two,
senior tour.
He was like 3 over par the last time I saw him.
Yeah. So, and I think four was originally the cut, but I know that he finished, I think, probably worse than that. But with Matsuyama, he made history as he's the first male golfer from Japan to win a major championship.
And judging by the photos I saw on Twitter, you would have never thought that was the case. This kid is literally sitting, what was it, in the Atlanta airport?
Yeah.
Sitting in the airport, out in the concourse.
He was walking through it with holding it, and
then just sitting in the chair with his Masters jacket just draped over the chair next to him in the middle of the airport. Like, how Like that's just not something you're ever going to see.
No. Well, and the other thing that was great about this, he's been around for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So he's been on tour for 10 years at this point.
He started as an amateur.
He started as an amateur, worked his way, continued to put the nose to the grindstone. And he's had a few like smaller wins, but never a major championship.
Right.
So for him to get this, it was great. And the other thing that I thought was respectful and just great of the Japanese culture, his caddy. Did you see that? His caddy at the end after he hit the last putt.
Yeah,
his
photo.
caddy, he just had the emotion with his caddy. His caddy has the flag and says, "All right, I'm gonna go put the flag at." Goes and puts the flag back, and after he puts the flag back, takes his hat off and bows to the course.
Yeah,
and that's just it's a respect thing. I've played golf. Golf gets the best of you sometimes. You've played golf
sometimes, all the time,
all the time. But even at that level, to have the respect in that situation, you don't necessarily see that. And I felt like that was a scenario as if you saw somebody who didn't come from that culture, maybe, it came from a different culture that just kind of stood there and soaked it in for a second. That's what this is a tough course, and I pay my respects to this course kind of thing. That's what we saw. So just great little feel good story. So nice to see.
All right, James, what do you got for us this week?
Well,
there you go.
I'm sorry, I took myself off. Well, at least we had one thing coming out of Georgia. At the Atlanta game, they were playing the Phillies. Freeman hit a home run. This boy, Joshua Scott, was right of catching the ball. He missed it. Maybe it was like, what Fred did to to Joe.
Basically.
But it fell into the bullpen area. One of the players threw it back. He caught it, sat back down with his dad, and he eventually gave it back to a young man, another boy that was wearing a Freddie Freeman jersey. I guess some Atlanta faculty saw what happened, came back down, and this was Friday, so I guess they were in town or whatever, but they offered him to come back on Sunday. Freeman got a hold of it, got a ball signed by him, but also got Harper to sign it, gave it to him. And then apparently the Phillies signed some merchandise and gave it to the young boy too for the gesture that he did. Awesome. But it's good story to to get back. For a kid to give a ball that they got to another kid, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that fan to player interaction is so important. I remember being a kid and staying after the games and going out to the parking lot and the players coming up and signing autographs like it was no problem. I mean, guys did it all the time. These guys, they're getting paid so much, and they don't have that personable, and if they can make money off their signatures doing it somewhere else, they're going to do that versus just signing at the games. You don't see it often enough,
especially Harper, because he doesn't like to sign balls, period.
Exactly. So that's a great story for sure.
Great story.
Ryan, what do you got?
All right. So my story is not quite as heartwarming. Might have a little Masters type tie with Tiger over here, but charges have officially been filed against the pre-Super Bowl accident on February 4th with Britt Reed. Right before the Super Bowl, Britt Reed, who's Andy Reid's son, and I think he was running offensive coordinator or something for them.
Offensive assistant or something.
Assistant.
Maybe.
Right. In other words, my son needs some money, and I'm great.
Put him on
you
the
guys should
payroll.
hire me and my son.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's had plenty of history in the past running into with all kinds of things, but at this time he ran hard at 84 miles an hour into two parked cars on the exit ramp just outside of the Chiefs facility. This accident left a 5-year-old girl critically injured at the time, and since she's a TBI and has been rendered unable to speak or walk and is using a feeding tube. So
I haven't
basically
heard these updates, so
you knew it was bad because, they kept this so hush-hush the entire time, didn't release any details of the situation. That's
But
that's
what
rough.
the worst part of it, they said if he's found guilty, he's only going to serve 7 years in jail.
Yep, 7 years is the max. So it said the cars were parked there on the shoulder due to one car having a dead battery. The other one was a cousin there to help them get their dead battery sorted out.
Right.
Reed later at the hospital had a .113 blood alcohol level.
Jesus.
Reed surrendered to the police after the charges were filed, then posted his $100,000 bail that Daddy got him. He is on bond with a GPS ankle monitor, alcohol monitoring system in his car, a little blow and go. He's subject to random drug tests and can't go to anywhere where alcohol is the primary sale, so a bar. If convicted, like I said, could only get 7 years. Reed admitted on the scene to having 2 to 3 drinks and prescription Adderall before the incident.
Wow.
But it's crazy. Reed's other son committed suicide, so
Yeah.
it's not a good look.
You know what?
The same year that his son committed suicide, he won Man of the Year with the NFL. Just putting that out there.
You feel for that family though, because I mean, in that scenario, this girl and this family has to live with this for the rest of this girl's life.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like it was just a situation where the girl passed, and and not saying that that's any better, right? But now this girl has to live and function. She's 5 years old. I have a 5-year-old.
Yep.
I would be livid. It would be attempted manslaughter,
For
in my
7 years
opinion.
only.
For 7 years. You ruined my child's life.
Yeah, they charged him with DUI and reckless endangerment, but vehicular manslaughter was not one of the charges. They say that they are holding him to the strictest account of the law, that there will be no tiger treatment here, but it feels tiger-esque.
Drew says he'll get 5 years probation. Bank on it. It's a shame.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah.
All right, so in my story, now
Lighten us up a little bit, Fred.
I don't know. We'll see. Now, former Patriot Julian Edelman announced his retirement via social media yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this.
I did see this.
But before he announced his retirement, the Patriots actually announced that they released him, which immediately sent everybody into we're just put him in the Ring of Honor with the Buccaneers because that's where he's going. He's going to be a Buck. He's going to partner up with Tom Brady. They're going to win another 3 Super Bowls together until they're 50 years old. Then, of course,
week 8.
Yeah. Then, of course,
Yeah.
he announced the retirement himself via Twitter video, stating an injury that he suffered last season, toward the end of the season, what was the wheels are falling off moment for him, because he said he was going to play until the wheels came off, and he said that was
The
that
wheels came
moment
off.
for
His
him.
words, yeah.
And then boom, instantly the debate on social media changes from him going to the Buccaneers to, is this guy a Hall of Famer or not? And people were on very, very opposite ends to this and going back and forth on this. For me, I don't think this guy is a Hall of Famer at all. He played on a Hall of Fame team. If you could put a team in the Hall of Fame, he played for a Hall of Fame team during a dynasty era. But when you just look at this guy's numbers over his career, nothing is mind-blowing about what this guy did. Take the Super Bowls out of the equation for a second, right? 620 career receptions. That's 75th all-time. 6,822 receiving yards. That's 156th all-time. 36 receiving touchdowns. That's not ranking up there with anybody. Pretty sure Megatron had like 36 in a season.
That's like what Dion says. Everybody gets in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right. But here's the thing. What he has 0 of, he has 0 Pro Bowl appearances, 0 All-Pro selections, 0 1,200-yard receiving years, 0 seasons with more than 8 total touchdowns.
He's not eligible for the Hall of Fame. They just did this with Ryan Fitzpatrick. You have to have been in a Pro Bowl in order to be in the Hall of Fame. Debate's over.
I don't know. The Hall of Fame put a tweet out saying that he was eligible in 2026. They put a tweet out saying
How did they
that.
just have this conversation that you
I
couldn't
don't
get
know.
in
I don't know.
without a Pro Bowl?
Maybe the Super Bowl or the Super Bowl MVP, which he did win,
Oh, God,
trumps that. I don't know, but they did put out a tweet. But the funniest tweet, the tweet of the day, which had me rolling and had me rolling again before the show, Bo Wolf of The Athletic in Philly put out a tweet. He said, Julian Edelman never even had a season where he had led all white guys in receiving yards, which made me die laughing. I don't know if it's true or not, but either way, it's fucking hysterical. Of course, Gronk tweeted in a little bit later. He says he's giving it a 69% chance
69.
that Edelman will be back and he's going to be playing again. So that doesn't close the door on him potentially going to Tampa Bay.
Well, the whole thing of them releasing him too was he basically told him, "Hey, I'm done. Go ahead. Don't worry about the payment. Cut me. You can get the cap space back. It is what it is."
Chuck says not first ballot, but probably at some point only because of his rings. I listen. This is why, I don't think Super Bowls should be the end-all, be-all of whether somebody gets in a Hall of Fame or not. Because if you're just looking at Super Bowl MVP, and playoff performance, Then Joe Flacco's a fucking Hall of Famer. Joe Flacco has a Super Bowl MVP, and he's one of the best historical quarterbacks in postseason play ever. But is he a Hall of Famer? No. He's a fringe Ring of Honor player. I mean, he'll be there, but he's a fringe Ring of Honor player. He's not a Hall of Famer. Julian Edelman is a product of a great team with an even greater quarterback. Wes Welker, I think Drew mentioned him too. Wes Welker B for me is all.
Drew
Julian
just asked
Edelman
a question about umpiring. 2-minute warning, Drew. Come on, you know better.
Oh man.
No rules.
Somebody's got to come up with a second question.
No boundaries. 2 topics.
You're in the blind.
30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning. You're over here throwing real gang signs, but you're
I don't know what I was doing.
You're like,
pretty sure I had a seizure just now. I don't know what just happened.
It's all elbow, no wrist.
All right, guys, it's time for the 2-minute warning. Who's reading the first question for us?
The first one. So, what is your guys' take on how these bad umpires calls are going on? Let me get your take on it.
it's simple. You got to hold them accountable. You got to start saying that these guys, whether it's fines, whether it's them saying, look, you get 3 major strikes and you're out. I don't know what it is, but it's something to hold the umpires accountable. The call in our game where Brandon Hyde's thrown out the check swing, okay. The call in the Mets game with the clear lean into the pitch, it's got to go. And Angel Hernandez, why the fuck is he still here?
The bigger problem in the call that you missed was the non-tag of home plate that was clear as clear could be on video replay. What the fuck do we have video replay for if it's not effective and we're not using it the way it should be used? This is the same problem we have had with umpiring for years. It has not gotten any better. It was the same
problem before replay.
Exactly. It's the same problem we had before replay, and here it is with replay, high definition replay, and we still can't get the shit right. It's bogus. It's ridiculous. Go ahead, Joe.
All right. So if Wiggins, Morcell, NIL are back, I've seen some pundits say they're top 10 team. How far do the Terps go?
I think if all those guys come back, this team they have the potential, if all cylinders are firing, they could make it to the Final Four. I don't see it any further than that. But I could see them making it that far.
I think they can make a good run. The problem is still going to be size. I know they've got a nice guy that can play power forward and center now out of Georgetown, but he's one guy, right? They don't have a whole lot of depth there, especially if they lose a piece like Galen Smith, right? So if you don't have him back there, you're asking a freshman to come in and play big minutes. I like this kid that's coming in. I just don't know if they're a Final Four team. I definitely think that they have the potential to be a Final Four team. I just think they're more in that Sweet 16 range.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't see them being a
We'll
Final
get your
Four
opinion
team.
in the quick after hours.
All right, Scott, sign us off.
All right, we appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. Make sure you check out our website, www.Birdland BS. While you're there, you can check out all of our episodes. You can get some Birdland BS gear. You can check out the latest episodes of the Shell and Tell podcast. James over there, he's got the new one. Get over to that casting couch. Your camera's up. You're
blocking the
computer. There you go. There's the new one. So make sure you check us out. Get your Birdland BS gear and more. BigPlay.com and BirdlandSports.com. You can also
Big
check
shout
it
out to Cole Jackson. Thanks again for joining us today. Big shout out to Joe Carlozo for coming into the show today.
Thank you.
I know we didn't get to involve you a ton in the show, but man, appreciate you doing
Big
it.
shout out to Garnett West. We love you too.
Yes. Invitation's always open, Joe.
And, we might have to kick Drew off.
That's fine. Who needs Drew? He can stay for
Make sure you guys
love you, Drew.
Check us out on all of our social media pages. At Birdland BS is how you find us. If you want your opinion or topic heard on the show, make sure you message us. Use our hashtag that's BLBS or contact us directly. We try to get your questions and bring them up on the show. As always, the audio version of the podcast can be found on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Check us out. Drop us a review while you're there. For all the guys, for Fred, Ryan, James, Joe, Drew, who's in Florida, and we don't care about you, Drew. Just
Live it up, buddy.
Live it up. Myself, we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys. It's time for the after party.
It's last call for alcohol, and this is going to be a quick last call.
Yeah, it is.
All right, first of all, anybody out there that doesn't already subscribe to the Shell and Tell podcast, check out this week's for sure. We had the Jordan McNair Foundation founder, his father, Mr. Marty McNair, on this week. Take a look at that. If nothing else, just download it and share it with your friends, please. Cause that's a big one. Trying to get them some help as much as possible for a good cause.
We got another episode we're going to be recording hopefully on Thursday with Gafir the Turtle.
Yeah, we'll run a little bit slower through the topics we already had and add a few more into it. So we kind of blitz it this week.
That was the sprint version.
The after hour or the 2-minute warning question. If all of those players return and Galen Smith doesn't return, he's got to be insane because like the whole reason you're playing college basketball.
But his question had nothing to do with Galen Smith, and my thing was that Galen Smith.
Well,
wasn't
I also
coming
was
back.
telling him to hurry up so we get to the 2-minute
No, I know that.
Yeah, you gave him like a minute 50 or something like that.
Because he's not on a timer for that question. You are. Where the timer's going.
Yeah, we gotta get two 1-minute warning questions.
Right? Exactly. Just to appease Carlozo.
I think in my math, if all three of them return, that means Galen's there too, and that puts them locked in an Elite 8 squad, and it's just luck after that.
Okay, so you have them one round farther. It was like I was so far off base when I said a Sweet 16 team. Like, oh my god, this is ridiculous.
We were a Sweet 16
one team higher.
We were a Sweet 16 team this year. That's so much of a better squad.
We were not a Sweet 16.
Ryan thinks
we weren't
he's
even a top 32. We got lucky there.
Ryan thinks he's at home. He got his shoes off and shit.
I got my shoes off.
I look over earlier and I was like, where the fuck are his shoes?
It's not the fish tank smell.
It's been a rough day.
Were there any good comments out there that we didn't get a chance to talk about or work in?
No, our fans suck, so we didn't have any good comments. No, I'm just kidding. We had some good comments. Everybody was kind of
You are
celebrating.
ruining the Birdland BS image day by day, show by show.
I love him.
I'm going to have to cut his mic off just completely. Just let him produce behind the scenes.
I told Garnett I loved him. We're
Jesus.
doing good. People were just celebrating. Apparently, we got the Caps win and an O's second game.
Apparently, the O's won on a Urias walk-off single.
I saw that, yeah. Chuck.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Chuck.
No, Adit is the one.
Oh, no. Okay. Thought it was Chuck.
Of course, we got Drew
Chuck
finally
said O's
checking
win.
in. You know, the kids are asleep in Disney World, so he wants to get involved. But, yep. it slowed down a lot after the Ravens segment, as expected. We kind of ran people to death on this late night.
All right. Well, if nobody's got anything, I'm out.
Friends going to sleep.
We'll see you, bitches.
See ya.